Welcome to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share. All ideas, thoughts, and statements are those of the guest and the host of Echo Oscar Delta, and not of Navy EOD or Navy as a whole. All right, today I have Scott Weaver. Did 24 years of service active, 4 years reserve, retired as a senior chief, did 5 deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan, Southcom, and Africa. I think.
And Bahrain.
And Bahrain, yep. So pretty much all over. Appreciate you coming on the podcast, talking with us.
I appreciate it, man. This will be pretty cool. That first EOD podcast I've ever done.
Nice. So, I start pretty much everyone with, how'd you find EOD?
How did I find EOD? There I was. It was right after 9/11. They were going to bring me back in. I was an actual reservist CB at that point, and they were going to bring me back in and going to Guam unaccompanied for a year. That didn't sit well with me. Yeah. So I decided to come back in active duty. At that time they were bolstering the MA force in the Navy by like threefold. So they were going from like 2,000 to like 10,000. So the only thing you could come back in was an MA. Didn't know much about that. Came back in as an MA. Was stationed in Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, New Hampshire. This tiny little hole in the wall place. It's where the Constitution was built, actually.
Oh, nice.
Oldest naval base. A lot of history there. But I hated my life.
Yeah.
So sitting in a box touching badges, and I think it got to negative 50 below at one point with the wind chill that year. And that's basically when I said, screw this. There's got to be better stuff out there. Kind of always stayed in shape. It's kind of been my thing the whole life, and grew up, on the swim team. So I was a late bloomer coming into EOD. I think I was like 27, 28 when I made that decision. Started training. The only person on my base that had any knowledge was a DMO who'd gone through dive school. So he was awesome. He started training me up. And then the nearest EOD platoon was a shortet in Rhode Island. So the shortet in Rhode Island. So I went down there to meet the guys and kind of see what EOD is about, because nobody knows what EOD is about, right? Before you get in. And that's when I decided I fell in love. I go in there, they're all in, board shorts, sandals, big old dip in, and they're showing me around the place, and there's a hot tub, diver rewarming station, right? They're bragging about jumping with the Germans and then going lobster diving. I was like, holy shit, dude. This is where I was meant to be. Yeah. Oh, we get to blow shit up. It's just a plus. So that began the journey. And then just trained my ass off and got out of the MA community and went to EOD school. So you didn't know anything about EOD beforehand. How did you find out to even look at EOD? So I did know a little bit about it.
Oh, okay.
I had done 4 years active duty Navy as an HT working on subs, another job that sucked ass. But I think all those jobs kind of built me a little character. It also gave me, going into EOD as a fleet returnee, I was, I'm going to drown before I go back to the fleet. And I did. But, and I think that's knowing just a tiny snippet of what EOD did, all you know is they blow shit up, right? Yeah. You don't really know the extent of what they do. Everybody knew what SEALs were, that movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen. Still some good one-liners in there, though. Yeah. So that was the two decisions for me, was either SEALs or EOD. But like I said, when I went and toured those guys at the Randy Robillard was the chief there.
Yeah.
And
I know that name.
Yeah, he was cool as fuck, and he kind of like after I did my PRT, he was like, "Yeah, dude, you need to go in." That's pretty much how it was. That's when I made my decision. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna go SEALs or anything, which I'm kind of glad.
Yeah,
I love the SEALs. Like, they're my brothers. Been through a lot of shit with them. Mm-hmm. on combat deployments, and they are amazing individuals. But I definitely picked the right job.
Yeah, I think sometimes sometimes people explain our job like, oh, we're SEALs, but we do some different stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, we get to do a lot of the things that they do, but our job is different. And I think that there's an appealing to our job specifically, that it's not like I don't know. Sometimes I think that description of like, we're SEALs, but different, but we do different stuff. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like,
no, I 100%. I think everybody that is EOD gets it. If you don't get it, it's like, well, that's the old joke, smart SEAls is EOD.
Yeah.
What was that joke? They used to say, oh, if you would have done a couple more pull-ups, you could have been a SEAL.
Yeah.
And I always come back with, if you had a couple more points on your ASVAB, you could have been EOD.
Yeah.
All in fun.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of really smart dudes in SEALs too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you PSI, how long do you PSI for over there? Or were you actually in the PSI program?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
They didn't have one up there because tiny base.
Yeah, okay,
way up
gotcha.
in New Hampshire. So I literally just trained under this one dude who was phenomenal. We had the early, and I was working mid shift as a cop, 13-hour shifts at night. I'd get off work and then go straight to the pool, having 2-a-day workouts, all that stuff to get ready for it, just to kind of make sure I was prepared. That's where it started. When
you got to school, how'd that go for you? Some people it's pretty easy. How was it for you?
So we were, I think we were the second class to ever go through prep.
Okay.
You still had Dave Hall there, Stillwell, a couple other dudes, Ploman, Navy, throwing some old names in the hat there. And they kicked our ass, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that shit was hard. And it was wintertime in Chicago, so December. Thank God we got off like a few days early for Christmas. So that right there was the start of it, right? And I made it through fine there, but it was very hard. Then of course, you go to dive school and teamed up. And I did pretty well there too. And then EOD school came, and obviously most people know that switches to the academic kind of thing. And I think being older and maybe a little more mature, I've just put everything. You got to become obsessive with something like that you want to be, and just really put everything I had into it. Even though I was going through a separation and divorce at the time of EOD school, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We would just kill ourselves Monday through Friday, and then we would go out party, get drunk Friday night, kind of like purge everything, and then start it back over Monday. But I did pretty well. I graduated towards the top of my class, and I only failed one test through all of EOD school.
Nice.
And I think it was a Marine instructor in ground, and he had 6 or 7 Navy EOD kids for testing that day. All 6 of us failed.
Really?
And what I did was you have to have your explosives and initiators 25 feet away from each other.
Yeah.
But we kind of notionalized that. But because I didn't actually go 25 feet, he failed me.
Gotcha.
It's whatever. I think, maybe a Navy cat slept with his wife or something.
Yeah, right.
Before. He was just pissed off. But yeah, after that, came through, we got orders to Mob Unit 12. And so I was one of the first ones at Mob Unit 12 and plank owner.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's funny. That actually just came up. And so Mob Unit 12, 2008 was when it formed up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually just came up. And there's a debate right now between me and somebody else at work on whether, Mob Unit 6. So Mob Unit 6 formed in, 86? But it's weird. It was not Mob Unit 6, but 6 was there-ish.
Yeah.
And so in theory...
They were down in North Carolina, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody said that Mob Unit 12 was also down in Charleston in some form.
So it was.
Okay.
So I think the first inception of Mob Unit 12 obviously started down there.
Okay.
And so they started breaking dudes off to go to 12, to kind of form 12. But it officially
Yeah.
wasn't a mobile unit until it got to Virginia
Okay.
Beach.
That's what I was kind of thinking. I
Yeah.
was thinking it was something like that.
So there's some truth in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he's not a total liar.
He's not a total liar. But officially,
Yeah.
we'll say Virginia Beach.
I like it. That's pretty cool being a plank owner.
Mm-hmm.
How was it? You know, I haven't been in a mobile unit when it first started, you know, like officially like that. You know, I know mobile units, everything, every command goes through ups and downs, but how was it starting up? Was it pretty cool to be there at the beginning?
Oh my God, was it cool, dude?
Yeah.
I'm sure every single dude that is retiring like me, you know, salty old senior chief or master chief says the same shit. You know, it was way better back in my day, but dude, that was the golden era. You know, we had just started in the wars. Everything was really fucking serious. Training was unbelievable. The men were unbelievable. Like, it was just, you really did feel like you were part of something better. You know what I mean? You were going down range and actually doing the job. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And the individuals, like, second to none of any of them that I met. You know, you got your Scotty Daytons and all those guys that were back then, who kind of developed me as a young, middle age. We'll say middle age, brand new EOD tech.
Nice. Then you started. You got on your first team, and how was that like process?
Again, awesome. You know, I had some new guys that were with me that were amazing. You had, you know, Bobby, some other, of course, names are going to just mess with me, dude, because I'm horrible with names.
Yeah.
You know, I had,
no judgment.
Let's see, we had, Ian was our LPO. Paul, was our chief, who, if you don't know Paul, like, in one of the smartest dudes I've ever met in EOD. He's like an idiot savant. I think he's on the spectrum a little bit. And if Paul's listening to this, nothing but love, man. Yeah. He was amazing with teaching us stuff, and he actually went to Afghanistan and did some fucking crazy shit.
Yeah.
But I also do remember, you know, I was with Paul in Baghdad on my first deployment with SEAL Team 2 on that first team, and we would be on target. You know, you're doing DAs at night, Al-Qaeda targets. And then the lull would be done. We'd be done target secure and kind of like doing SSE and then whatever, waiting to flex to the next target. Paul would pull out a sci-fi novel out of his cargo pocket and start reading sci-fi.
Really?
Oh my God, it used to embarrass the shit out of me, dude. I was like, you're giving us such a bad name. We're supposed to be these cool badass, and you're over there reading sci-fi novels. But he just didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And he was just one of those guys that was just so fucking intelligent. He didn't care.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I forgot about that till you just mentioned that. But that was the first team. Cliff Frazier was on it. He was one of the new guys. Ended up not doing too well after that. People that hear that name will understand. Gotcha. But you know, at the time we had, let's see, Mikey Smoot. We had Steve, who it was kind of a chode to work for. Like, me and him butted heads big time. Really? We've kissed and made up since then. Yeah. But Ian made chief on that. So then it slid Steve to the LPO position. But yeah, that was my very first team. And we went right to war, you know, in Iraq. We actually relieved, you know, let's see, it was Scott Dayton, Matt Wheeler, Tyler Trahan had just died. Yeah. And so we were rolling into that whole scene. So it was pretty serious shit. Yeah.
Getting, you know, doing the train up and then going to war. How was, you know, our training is good, right? And I think they've set it up well, and especially in that time frame where everything was like heavy.
Yeah.
But the process from training for war and then actually going to war, how was that? Did it actually prep you? And did you feel like, okay, like shit's real and I'm ready?
So that's a really good question. Because I felt like, and it's kind of what we're seeing now with the EOD too, where you're having the guys that are training dudes that have never been to war. Right. It was kind of that way my first team and my first workup, right? Like, a lot of the dudes that were at the training units and whatnot had never been to war, and they were still kind of teaching the old ways, the Daryl Hoovers. Yeah. I'm going to name drop like a motherfucker, dude. I don't care. But I didn't know, right? You're a new guy. You didn't know. Yeah. Luckily, the group of dudes I had training me, and even though I didn't get along with Steve, he was really good at training us. The Ians and all those dudes, the Scotty Daytons, like those guys were really good at training us. So that was great preparation for going to war. But again, you can't. It's like completely not what you think it's going to be. Like war is different than what you build it in your head. Maybe that's true for everything. Before you went to EOD school, you had built up this like what it's going to be.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
Right.
Before you go to a SEAL team, you build up what those guys are going to be. It's not the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think war was the same thing. It was a little different, but man, some of the coolest ops I've ever been on in my life were in Iraq doing DAs at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First, so I know some guys, they get there and just the way things are rolled out, it could be months on deployment before they actually take care of their first IED. Other guys, I know a few of my friends that never had to deal with a live, like an in-placed IED.
Sure.
Dealt with live IEDs because like somebody came up and was like, "Hey, can you here?"
Yeah, that old story.
Like,
we all have that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was your first experience in there?
So, ironically, Iraq, because we were doing DAs at night, we had that element of surprise. We really didn't roll up on any IEDs. There was a couple, maybe two on target that I found that weren't hooked up. You know what I mean? So the IED threat was way lower on that deployment from what we were doing. The guys that were getting hit were the ones that were rolling out broad daylight during the day, and those trucks were getting hit.
Yeah.
There was a couple of suicide bombers and shit like that, but we didn't, as a team 2 in Baghdad, we didn't have that. The IEDs came my Afghanistan deployment.
Yeah.
And that was crazy, dude. That was almost an IED like every other day.
Really?
Yeah. And one day I had 11 IEDs.
Jeez.
But and I'm sure we'll talk about that deployment a lot later on.
Yeah. With the IED threat being a little bit lower, was that like a relief in that you got to kind of just focus on the DA portion? Obviously, your job is EOD, so you're always thinking about that and ready for it. But as the weeks and months go by and you're doing these and it becomes a little bit less of a threat, how'd that play out? Was that?
That's a good question, man. You got some good ones. So, I think most EOD guys, you have to, if you don't have your skill set represented on those targets, you need to find work for yourself, right? Yeah. And most of us are really good at that. So that you still have value to the assault force. Mm-hmm. So at that time, we weren't running into IEDs, right? So to keep the SEALs from thinking like, well, why the fuck are we taking these guys with us, Yeah. I was really, really good at SSE and just finding shit. So then I earned myself a spot on the SSE team. Nice. And then I was like a lead for the SSE. And that got me on target. That guaranteed me on target every freaking time.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things. We had that archaic old BATS system that I think it was an FBI system for fingerprinting. That thing was fucking huge, dude. It was like 30 pounds laptop. You had to set up SATCOMs. And Paul, and if he's listening to this, like, you're an asshole for volunteering us for that, because I was carrying that bitch. And funny enough, though, like, I was so pissed because I had to carry that damn thing. But we were fingerprinting everybody on target, and later on, that played like huge roles in arrests and convictions, right? But I remember, this is going to age me. I remember getting on top of some Al Qaeda targets when it was target secure, logging onto the BAT system, and you have internet access at this point. And I would check my MySpace out. Yeah. I would like see what's going on with MySpace. I'm like, well, it's fucking FBI's monitoring this. So they can check out my MySpace too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad saying this, but that kind of shows how old you are because you're talking about MySpace.
I know, right?
Facebook.
I know. Yeah.
No, that's funny. Finding the job in the SSE, it's interesting because, a lot of people hear EOD and they think like one, they think conventional, first of all,
Yep.
until, except for if you know Navy EOD, and then a lot of our stuff is the unconventional work and, you know, in the, with the SEALs and stuff like you were doing.
Yep.
But the SSE portion, we, especially like in that time frame and then further, realized how important, just like you said, that is.
Yep.
To where that ties a lot of things together as the months and years go on. That's that's interesting. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it puts, as the EOD tech, right, you're there for the IEDs and bombs, duh. But like convicting these dudes that are like whatever IED mullahs or the guys that are building the shit, like having that hard evidence is paramount. You know, that was in Iraq. Afghanistan, a lot different.
Yeah.
You know, we tried to pull guys off target and have them convicted, but that shit never fell through. They'd be back out. So we changed our SOP for that one.
yeah, we can leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think I do want to mention this. It's going to go slightly off topic a bit. So so when you're brand new EOD and you're doing the workup with the SEALs, right? So that first trip, right, that you go with the SEALs, there's such a dick measuring competition. It's not even funny. And you're already looked down on because you're not a SEAL. And I think for me, what really gave me validity was being like super in shape, you know, being strong, having that knowledge, being a good shot. Really, those are the two things the SEALs care about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like they don't know anything about EOD. They just assume that you're on the level if you're over there, right? But if you can PT and you can shoot with them, dude, you're in there.
Yeah.
I think so. Knowing that and being prepared that way really brought me into the brotherhood. It kind of opened the door for me in the SEALs. And then once that happened, you're allowed to do more stuff. You know, I mean, I was a squad leader as an EOD guy, which was rare back then.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How was that being a squad leader? Like,
it was really cool, but also nervous because, like, you know, you have a spotlight on you in EOD, and every dude that's listening to this that's been through Shaws or whatnot, as the EOD cat, like, you have a spotlight on you. If you fuck up in the house, boom, everybody knows. You know, some of the frogs or whatever kind of get away with a few things, but because of EOD, you have that spotlight on you, so you have to have your shit together.
Yeah.
When you do that. But it was cool. It was really cool. Like they gave me nothing but new guys.
Yeah.
but that was good. And it does make you feel good that they feel confident enough to put you as an EOD guy as a squad leader.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're sound tactically.
Of the missions that you did, are there any that kind of stand out for any particular reason?
Yeah. Oh, dude, we don't have enough time. But I remember, I'll have two quick little stories.
Okay.
The first one, you know, DA's at night. And we were sneaky motherfuckers, dude. So we, you know, getting in the house without being heard. And I remember the first time, my first target that I ever came in, and, you know, all the ma'ams, the mature adult males, they all sleep in one room. Of course, all the females and kids sleep in another room. So me and one other SEAL went into the ma'am's room, and there was probably, I don't know, 6, 7 dudes asleep on the floor. And so here you are, blacked out in night vision. You know, you got your M4, and you're amped the fuck up. And so, but we want to, you know, wake these guys up individually, one by one.
Yeah.
And so, my SEAL buddy would pull the covers back so I could check to see if he had, you know, whatever, an AK, S vest, whatever. And then when they didn't have that, I would wrap him in the head with the end of my silencer, kind of wake him up. And the first dude, I was so excited, I was like whispering, "Erfaridik, you know, get your hands up." And he's just waking up, and he can't see anything, but I don't realize this. You know what I mean? So he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And so I start raising my voice a little bit, and I was worried I was going to wake the other guys up. And then I realized, I was like, "Oh, he can't see shit." So I flip on my red light, and then when he sees me, he was like, "Holy fuck!" You see it come over, and I just did this thing. We pulled him out, and we did that. Not one of them woke up unless we woke them up. So one by one, we slowly pulled them out without.
That's legit.
Yeah, it was, and there was 1 or 2 AKs in there, but that was really fucking cool. And after that target happened, I was like, damn, dude, that was some really cool shit.
Yeah.
And I think we pulled 3 or 4 Al Qaeda dudes off that target that were on the tier list.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. See, I already forgot what the other one. Oh, here's another one. This is kind of funny because those are always the best stories. So when I was in Iraq, that's when Call of Duty came out. You know what I mean? And you remember how big that game was. It was huge.
Yep.
So the CBs built this gaming room that had like 3 or 4 flat screens and all the consoles connected. And the new guy frogs they were playing it like nonstop, dude. Like all day. That's what they would do. Just play Call of Duty. And I remember, getting called to go on target, like time sensitive targets. And we would roll out, hit target, and they would be pissed because they were missing out on their Call of Duty game. I'm like, dude, you're living the game right now. And all you're doing is talking about this video game on target.
Oh,
I thought that was funny. Yeah.
There's been times where when I was doing a couple of the train ups, and you get done with those shooting courses and everything, right? And so you're like getting pretty decent at it.
Yep.
I've always been terrible at those type of games, but I like them. And I'd be playing, and then you get that what is like a 6 or a 7-year-old.
Oh yeah,
just talking crap.
Shit, dude.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
and I get so mad.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, just calm down. Like this is you're being ridiculous right now.
Yeah. That's why I didn't play them because I would just get my ass whooped.
Yeah.
We had Mario Brothers or Spy Hunter. I'd be good.
Yeah.
Because I'm old.
Most of your targets did you like offset to them or take helos or vehicles?
Iraq was small offsets. So
Okay.
we did a lot of gaffs. We did a lot of halves. So vehicles and also helos. But those dudes didn't like to hump it. So
Yeah.
I mean, we would go maybe 2 to 4 clicks off target, maybe 5 at the most, right? And then we would hump it in, hit the target, and then they would come and pick us up like 1 click away.
Yeah.
There was a couple times we landed on the X, and those were really cool.
Yeah.
Landing a little bird on the roof and landing us in the field, and those were really cool targets too. The gaffs were also really cool because that was in the urban environment in Iraq. So rolling through the inner cities, dismounting maybe a click or so off, rolling in, and then the mobility package would roll in for, outside containment.
Yeah.
So yeah, either way, Afghanistan, totally different. Like our OIC had gone, our SEAL OIC had gone to Ranger School, and then it was like a dick measuring competition to see who could hump the longest to a target, and we always had to win. Bro, that sucks as an EOD tech because I'd be clearing me and Zach. His name will come up a lot too. Love that dude. We would clear fucking clicks.
Yeah.
Like 3 to 7 clicks of clearing. And anybody that knows, that takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
So by the time we get the target, and these dudes are sitting in side-by-sides behind me, just shooting a shit. You know what I mean? We roll up to where we're getting ready to assault, and I'd be like, all right, I need like 15 minutes to get my shit ready. And they would be like, what? No, we need to hit this now. Like, dude, you've been sitting your ass in the truck the whole time while I've been out here risking my life for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the halves specifically. So, before you got there, right? I'm sure there's plenty of time where you practice all that stuff, right? Going with the SEALs with everybody.
Yep.
In the helo, flying to your training targets, hitting those.
Yep.
Difference between doing that and then overseas for real.
So the training in war was definitely different. Like the training was way more amped, which it should be, right? You should experience the worst possible environment in your training.
Yeah.
And overseas, like never had any, I say that we did have a helo crash with me in it. And my buddy Seth, God rest his soul. He's one of my best friends at SEAL teams. Seth Lewis, he's one of the guys that died in the pool a few years back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But he actually fell out of the bird.
Okay.
When we hit so hard. But it just wrecked the the landing gear.
Well, okay.
Yeah, so luckily, like, nobody got hurt or anything like that, and we ended up continuing the mission. That was the worst half helo incident I ever had on any combat deployment or combat mission. You know, and we never had a firefight coming right off the helo, in my experience, right? I know that's happened in a lot of dudes. You know, we were always offset, so it was always in the middle of nowhere. I think some of the worst was when we were exfilling and they would pick us up, you would have like complete brownouts, couldn't see anything, and didn't know if you were in the right chalk or not, right? But there's another. This stuff is making me remember shit now that I haven't remembered in a long time. So one half, we went and pulled. It was an Al-Qaeda target, so we pulled, I don't know, like two or three dudes off. Well, of course, EOD, you get to handle the pucks, right? So I had this one kid, and you try to, like, you got a couple clicks to roll out of there, so you try to pick like the healthy ones that can keep up, because you don't want to have to pull them and carry them and all this shit. So I see this younger kid, and I'm like, oh, he's mine. So I grab this dude. The second we step off, he starts limping, like his leg is broke, and I don't know if he was real or if he was just playing me for a fool, like, and trying to not go, right? Because they did that too. They used to act sick so that you wouldn't pull them off target. That's how I got tuberculosis. That's another story.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I'm pulling this kid, and he is just I'm basically having to carry this kid, but he might be 120 pounds soaking wet. The one or two clicks, and it was a brownout, and there was like pea gravel and this was 47, so the big boys, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it might have been no, I think it was the what's the big marine bird?
53? No.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I know. See, like, we got two minds here. You think we would come up with this? Whoever's listening to this is going to be like, "Oh, it's this, man."
Yeah.
You guys are idiots. But anyway, so this thing came to land, and it started kicking that pea gravel, and it was getting pelted at you like Nolan Ryan throwing a fastball. So like I'm getting just waylaid by these pea gravel. So I take this kid, because he'd pissed me off, and I held him in front of me like a shield. And I could hear him getting hit and being like, I was like, that's what you get, motherfucker. He was fine. He was fine. Anyway, so yeah, we got on the bird and left that one.
How long did it take before you were comfortable enough that on the way to targets, you would get a cat nap in the helo?
Oh, dude. We called it time traveling, right? Bro. Probably the first fucking ride. If you ever had like a 45 or 50 minute helo infill, dude, you get your old fashioned iPad, because this is, back in 08, 09.
Yeah.
Put on some nice, making love music, and just pass out for the whole time.
Yeah.
And literally, you would get the 1 minute out or 5 minutes out, and that's when it was time to wake up and be like, all right.
Yeah.
Every time. And even in the strikers on the gaffs, those strikers were awesome. They rode like Cadillacs. Horrible when you get hit with an IED, but they were amazing. I've never time traveled more in my life than riding in those strikers.
I think it's funny because a lot of people are like, they just don't understand how you could sleep when you're about to go do something like that. And you're like, well, yeah, I mean,
it's weird though, isn't it? Like
it is.
You're fixing to go and play Call of Duty for real life, and you just pass out.
Yeah.
And like all of us did. Yeah, that is weird. I wonder what there's got to be some kind of, psychological or chemical makeup that makes you do that. Maybe the adrenaline dump or whatever. I don't know. That's weird.
I think so. Completely not at the same level, but we'll probably talk about cars a little bit later.
Of course.
Back in the day, I was pretty into cars too. And when I'd be at the drag strip, my friends would come up and they would, open the door, like 3 or 4 away, right? So they'd open the door, tell me something, right? And they would just stop and look at me like, what is wrong with you? Because I'd be playing like the slowest music ever.
Yeah.
It just like calmed me down.
Yep.
Like, I'm about to do something that's like pretty intense, I got to focus really hard, granted for, a few seconds.
Yeah.
I'll say a few seconds, but it was a lot more than that. My car wasn't that fast. But, I don't know, just beforehand, it was just like, you just want to like be calm because you're about to like get amped up.
Yeah. 100%. That's a really good analogy. And I don't know if it's just the type of individuals that are in our communities, but it was like that too when I would go down on an IED.
Yeah.
Maybe not the first one. The first one was very fucking hairy, and we can talk about that one later too. But like after a few, I was calm as shit. Like if you would have had a heart rate monitor on me, it would have been chill.
Yeah.
But then, after the deployment, especially, like you think back, you're like, wow, dude, like you could have been in pink mist with one wrong move, and you were just completely chill. So I don't know if that's the training, or just the type of people that we are. I don't know.
Coming back after that deployment, a lot of intensity for pretty consistently, right?
Yeah.
On the deployment, and then coming back, how was that transition?
You don't think much of it at the time, because back then we were running and gunning, dude. Like it was like literally right back into a workup. Guys were getting hurt, guys were getting killed, so it was like you're filling the next spot, and you might be right back out the next door. I think who experienced the biggest transition was the wives and the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like you come back, you are changed. You don't think you're changed, but you are a little bit. You're gone a little bit mentally or whatnot. So they're the ones that notice the biggest change immediately, and then it just, I think it progresses, long. They've had, if you have a wife and kid, like they've had to manage to run the household without you for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you come back in and just screw all their shit up.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you're needy and you're like, I need this and this. And like, I just came back. I'm a goddamn hero. Like, give me love. And they're like, no, I've been doing this shit this whole time you're gone. So those are some of the issues I think. I think transitioning back into work was flawless. Like back into the work cycle, the training cycles, all that was like, that was easy.
Yeah. You talked about, the guys training you. Most of them probably hadn't gone to war yet.
Yep.
And then you come back transitioning into whether it's another team. Well, did you go straight to another team?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Then doing that workup with the new guys, did you have things that you, because of the deployment that you did, that you wanted to really push?
100%. 100%. I mean, you're now the sought after dude, right? Especially when I came off that deployment, I got my team leader call, and like you have the most recent experience, and that is you are the most valuable player in any scenario. If you're the guy that just came back, like you have all the intel that you've gone and gotten, and all the stuff that you've done, you have the most experience, and it's fresh. Those are the guys that definitely need to train the dudes. So I think in that era, we were blessed. We had so many dudes coming off that had real world experience, and it just changed everything.
Yeah.
It changed training at the mobile units. It changed training at the at 2-2, excuse me, for the better. And so, I mean, the training just got really good. And you were around in that time where guys were coming back and giving the good shit from real world scenarios. You don't get better training. Unfortunately, we're kind of like, I'm an old man and we're the end of an era, right? And the guys training dudes now don't have the experience. Not to say that's a bad thing. There's still some phenomenal humans in our community that do amazing stuff, but it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just a different level.
Yeah. I think it's really important for the guys right now that don't have that experience. Because I didn't have Iraq, Afghanistan experience, but I was trained from like everybody that trained me.
Yeah.
After the first couple of years, they did. And I think that, it's important for the guys that don't have that experience, but are trained to take everything as realistic as possible and as serious as possible.
Yep.
Because then if you don't, because you can find flaws in what somebody's saying or what they're having you do, you can poke holes in everything. Right. Sure. And
we love to do that.
Exactly.
We love to poke holes in people's shit.
Yep. Yeah. But if you take it as serious as possible, then you can hold on to at least some of that experience for a while. So like, you know, the guys that I trained, if they don't have, if they take it as serious as possible, right? The lessons that I learned from the guys who went downrange in that capacity, because I went downrange in different capacity, right?
Yeah.
And there's, you know, value to all the stuff that we're doing, but
Sure.
but specifically the war section, right? Not just the being in a combat zone, because there's a difference, right?
Yep.
There's combat zone and then there's actual combat.
100% there's a difference.
And the way, and I know there's a difference because the way I felt as we're driving and the way I felt in the combat zone when nothing happened is very different than the way you felt in combat zone where you're doing combat, right?
Yeah.
But having that experience and keeping that as serious, eventually it's going to start to go away and you're going to lose some of that. But at least maybe you can hold on to it for 1 or 2 extra, you know, cycles, you know,
Yeah.
maybe an extra 5 years or 10 years.
Yep.
And that might be what's needed, because it might be 5 years or 10 years. And then now we're back in it. And okay,
Yeah.
now we're keeping
Yeah.
some of those.
Though that's a great point. I remember being, so after my combat deployments, I went and did a little short stint at 22. That's where I met you.
Yep.
And, you know, at Surface Division. And I remember the teams coming through that didn't give a fuck. You know, you would be on a mine strike or a vehicle strike or something like that. And there was no sense of urgency. And that shit used to piss me off, dude. And they used to call me Santa Claus as a grader because I was just like so chill and like, oh, okay, nobody died, so you guys get a fucking A. Well, the one thing that would piss me off is if the dudes, and especially the new guys, maybe their chief didn't purvey like how important that was and that there needed to be a sense of urgency, because if you're ever put in that situation, it's way fucking worse.
Yeah.
You know, and it's way hectic. War is fucking hectic. You know, I was part of a mine strike. I was the guy that got hit.
Yeah.
But I've also done, you know, mine strikes and vehicle strikes and pulled guys out of vehicles that have been hit. And so that sense of urgency, if anything else, that needs to remain. And if you're a team chief, like, I don't know how you purvey that into your new guys, but like that is number one, because whether it's diving or EOD, a life is on the line.
Yeah.
And so that sense of urgency is paramount. If you're going through the motions and just, you know, checking the block, laughing, coking and joking, sure. I love to laugh and coke and I'm the biggest jokester on the side, you know, but you got to have that sense of urgency. And if you don't, and you just take everything as like nonchalantly, like, you need to get your ass rammed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be a check right there.
We'll go back, but I want to ask you a question about your 2-2 time. One of the things that, and it ties into that, and like we talked about, I will definitely forget if I don't ask it right now. So coming through, I like to have a good time when we're running a drill, make a joke here and there, right? But I found that I had to really like assess the team and the individuals, because some guys, they can be part of the drill and laugh, joke back, and still be serious. And then other guys, as soon as you start to do that, they're just like, oh, okay.
Goes downhill.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Did you have the same?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, you definitely. But I mean, at that point, like, I would either address the team chief.
Yeah.
Or either several times I would talk to individuals, and anybody that's ever been trained by me at 2-2 can probably, you know, relate, where I would just give them a personal story that was real, and like why this is serious, you know, because this shit really happened, you know what I mean? And I know right now there's nothing going on, right? Even the guys down the street, Dam Neck, aren't really doing anything, but you can't train like that. You have to be ready.
Right.
At all times. You never know what's going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the job you picked.
Yep.
Like, the job you picked is to save lives. So, like, if you don't take that serious at all times, even in peace, like, I'm sorry, but like, go be an MA.
Yeah.
See how fun that is.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So you got back, you went back on a team, the second team to Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the workup, was it different because you're going to a different place or pretty similar?
That's another good question. I think back then the workups were so similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They did get intel dumps and they did try to inject. Obviously, Afghanistan had way more IEDs, and that was like the number one killer over there. Mm-hmm. So they did try to inject EOD more in like the assault forces and all that stuff, land warfare, all that. So that was a tiny bit of change, but the old hats still was like, no, EOD in the rear with the gear.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it takes getting to war and then somebody getting blown up or a truck getting blown up to them to be like, fuck, man, like we really need these dudes. And then I ran point every single mission, either me or Zach, every single mission in Afghanistan because of the ID threat. Yeah.
You mentioned having that experience, negative experience with the IED side to wanting EOD up front. I remember talking to an SF guy on a deployment, and he was like, worked with him for 2 weeks straight. We were just doing some training stuff. And he was like the coolest dude right off the bat. Like there was, you talked about like the butt sniffing portion, right?
Yes.
And up to that point, I'd worked with, team guys and I'd worked with SF guys, and there was always a little bit of that, right? And dude, there wasn't any of it with him.
Yep.
And
had he had a prior EOD guy that he went down range with?
So
bingo.
Where it came in is he was telling, he's like, dude, I used to not care about EOD at all. I thought you guys were like pumped up, whatever, like just whatever.
Yeah.
And then he was telling me his story. So his thing was he didn't have an EOD guy. He was a Charlie.
Yep.
He was the demo guy, for those who don't know.
Sure. He's now the EOD guy.
He was the EOD guy, and they were going up to a little hill to spend the night. And I think it was either 7 or 11 IEDs on the way up the hill. And the last one, he was like, I was laying down and I was pushing away. Yeah. And it just so happened that it wasn't connected or something because I was laying on the pressure plate.
Yep.
And he's like, y'all can have it. Like, I understand the value.
Dude, I've heard that story so many times. And I think, to kind of dial back, the guys that gave me a complete open arms welcome in the teams, and the SF is the same way. I did work with them a little bit. I just wasn't on a CRIF team or anything like that. Yeah. Were guys that have experienced EOD in real time in war. Yeah. And seen what we did. And they don't want any part of that shit. Right. Dude, they don't want any part of that shit. And then when they see us go down on IED, they're like, this dude's crazy.
Yeah.
But once again, we're trained so well for it. And the IEDs that I faced in the real world were child's play to what we got in training. You know what I mean?
On the Afghanistan deployment, was that the first IED that you went down on? Yeah.
So, like I said, Iraq, there was 2 that weren't hooked up, just trip line motor shit, easy stuff. Yeah. Afghanistan was when I finally got to do my job, right? Yeah. And the very first one was an RC frag device. Yeah. And, we had our ECM and our backpack stuff, right? And we were going up, and it was pretty close to I was doing the VSO mission. Okay. In Bog. And so we're going down on this 30 or 40 pound RC frag. And we have our CMRG, which for those that don't know, counter mine reduction group. They were kind of like our little Afghani EOD guys that we were training up. There's a good backstory on those dudes too. Those guys used to be like hitmen.
No kidding.
Yeah, they were like trained freaking killers, dude. And then we recruited them because they actually had a little bit of intelligence and could learn really fast. Yeah. So I'm strapping this ECM on his back because he's gonna go down and put the charge on this, right? And the whole time we're hearing chatter from the Taliban that wait till they get down on this and then they're gonna blow it. So like they're watching us. We can't even see them, but they're fucking watching us. So it was very anxiety was through the roof, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm putting this backpack on here, and I'm like, here, you're just gonna take your charge. This is just like we trained. You're gonna just run down there. You're completely impermeable. You cannot be blown up in this. This has a safety bubble. It's gonna protect you. You know, just pump it all up. So right before he goes down, the freaking battery dies, and the thing shuts off. And this is horrible of me, but I was trying to ignore it. I was like, all right, dude, you ready to go? And he knew. He wasn't a dummy.
Yeah.
He basically told me to fuck off. And it's like, I'm not going down without this thing going. And I can totally relate. I was like, yeah, you got me there, dude. Well, time constraints and other things, like we didn't have time to go back to base, get a new battery, and nobody else had any battery. We were dismounted.
Yeah.
So I had to go down on this thing and put a charge on it as fast as possible with that knowledge. And so that was my first IED, dude. And in hindsight, I'm like, that's when you should have said no.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, fuck off. So I think at that point though, we located him and saw him and we had eyes on him. So I literally ran down there, had my half-pound charge on like a 1-minute time fuse, right? Set it right in front of there, pulled smoke, grabbed my phone, took a selfie in front of and then ran away. So I swear to God. I mean, if I'm going to go, it's going to be on camera.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, that was my first IED.
Dude, that's intense.
Yeah, that was intense. And it went. It was definitely 30 pounds. And then after that, like they were all pressure plate after that until right before I left early because I got blown up and injured and got a free Medivac trip out of there.
Free.
Yeah. But then the RC stuff started coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You said movements to targets in there were a lot more intensive. Was that because of like terrain and stuff that you had to do those offsets and everything far?
Oh yeah. Dude, the terrain was insane. We were the Arghandab River Valley the mountain ranges in Afghanistan, and it was insane. I remember I was in really good shape, and the first 2 weeks we get there and we're doing turnovers, I was hurting bad because the altitude and then like hitting these mountains. I was like, God damn, dude. It's when you start cutting Molly off your kit to lose like fractions of ounces. You know what I mean?
That comes back to the car guy in you.
Yes. You know, like I'm gonna be light as fuck. I don't need this sidearm. That's 3 pounds. That thing's. I don't think I remember taking a sidearm with me. Yeah. Helmet. Psh, that's gone. But yeah. So the terrain was insane, and being what I would think would, was a good EOD tech. Like we never ever. We always took the hardest freaking route. You know, the least suspected route that we would go, and we changed it every single time we went out. And I'd like to think like I was the only one that got blown up on that deployment. So like we saved a lot of dudes. Yeah. And there was a lot of IEDs because of the hard route. And they would bitch, dude. I'd be like, there would be like a perfectly good road with like just calling you, And as the EOD guy, you're like, absolutely fucking not. Like that's exactly where they want you to go. And then right to the right of it is this huge mountain that you have to scale over. And I'd be like, that's where we're going, boys.
How was that actually? So, in a way, you kind of have a lot of power because, like, once they realize that, once the people that are making decisions about, yes, we're taking this route, yes, we're attacking this way, whatever, when you as the EOD guy are telling them, hey, we're going to do this, and they're just like, cool, that's what we're going to do. How was that?
Dude, like, yeah. And unfortunately, it takes somebody getting blown up and hurt, or just something getting blown up, a car or something, for them to be like, okay, we have, and if they trust you, which at that point, you've done a workup and you've kind of proved your mettle and they trust you. Yeah. So I was in the Brotherhood, got patched in, which is a big thing, right?
That's cool.
But anyway, that's when they look to you and they're like, what you say is gospel. And really having, and I'm sure that wasn't the way for a lot of dudes. In fact, I know guys, even on my team, that had issues with that, with other squadron, or like I was one troop with other troops. But having that trust with your SEAL OIC and the SEAL chief was amazing. You know, in the OIC, Tim Sheehy, I can say is that he's out now, was phenomenal. Like super intelligent. One of the best SEAL leaders I've ever had in that role. Like that dude, I used to think he had a death wish, but he was that guy. Like what's that movie with Sam where like the firefight's going on and he's standing up and bullets are running by him and he looks down at the dude and he was like, "What the hell are you doing in the ditch?" And he would only carry a pistol. Yeah, that was Tim Sheehy. Like firefight, he's standing up, seeing where the shit's at. You're behind a wall and you're like, "What the hell, dude?" I have some good stories from him too. But anyway, having that trust to where like he would tell the head shed basically to fuck off if I said, "This is what we need to do." Like he had my back 100% on my decisions when it came to like troop movement. And, you know, me and Zach would get in with the recce's. And so when they would do, you know, initial planning for our op, we would go in there and bring in the IED knowledge from all the sites that we had and be like, okay, this is hot. Maybe we should go this way. Bonding and having that infusion with recce and the leadership as an EOD tech, man, amazing. We were in the most kinetic part of Afghanistan with a firefight almost every single day, an IED almost every other day. So having that kind of bonding and that that interoperability between the two was just amazing. Yeah. And I think that was why, you know, I was the only one that got hit. Yeah. You know, we did have 2 guys get shot, but they both lived, you know.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
When you were doing that on that second deployment, what were you, E6 at the time?
Yeah, E6, yep.
I mean that says quite a bit right there too. Like E6 second EOD deployment.
Yeah.
And like making those decisions. I think that's something that you know, we you know, when guys are training, sometimes there's pushback because they're like, man, I don't plan the route. I'm not the one who says this is where the route is. Like, no, but you give that recommendation, and a lot of times, in fact, after a very short amount of time,
I hate that attitude.
Yeah, and like after a very short amount of time, every time I've worked with any of those guys, it's been a very short amount of time for me, to where, you know, I'm the EOD guy, and then okay, that's our EOD guy.
Yep.
You know, like the EOD guy to our EOD guy is, you know, once you make that transition, now I've had, you know, similar experiences where I would say something, or I should say somebody else would say something, another EOD guy that was newer, maybe higher ranking, and then
you can say it, officers,
and
maybe a JO
on both sides, officer and enlisted, where you know they would say something, and you know the GFC is like, nah, we're not gonna do that, this, that, whatever. And one time specifically, a guy came to me and was like, "Hey man, you know I'm E6. Hey man, I'm giving him this, and it's like for really good reasons, and like they're not listening."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that is a good reason." He's like, "Can you talk to him?" I'm like, "All right." So I go and I talk to the, you know, 04 that's in charge, the SF deal, and I don't even like finish everything that I'm saying. He's like, "Yeah, tell him he's good."
Yeah.
Like I just told you the same stuff he did, but it really is, you know, and it didn't take much longer. The dude had just shown up, right?
Yeah.
Been there for, I think only like a week or two, but you know,
yeah, dude,
that trust is important.
Yeah, that's true. There is, that brought up another memory. So the Afghanistan deployment, we did have a brand new SEAL chief who I was friends with. I went to Iraq deployment with him when he was in E6, and there was one time, so he was our brand new chief out there in Afghanistan because we fired our one that was completely unsafe. I might have had a little bit to do with that too, but so he kind of took over. Well, I had the trust of the whole team. And I remember one op, we went out, nothing happened, but I had already planned on, not going back the same way, because what they were doing was they saw everything we did, and then they would set up, they would have IEDs planted that weren't hooked up. So they would see where we were going, and then they would hook them up. And so kind of like one of my SOPs was like, we'll go in this way, but we're going to go home a completely different route.
Yeah.
And the way that we went home, it was like 15 minutes longer, and it was a little more treacherous, and he was like not having it. I don't know if he was just being lazy or he was just like, he wanted to slam his nuts down on the table and be like, this is what we're doing. And what was kind of funny is he did that, and we were in side by sides, and I was like, I'm not going that way. I'm like, if you're going that way, my side by side's not going that way.
Yeah.
And the whole rest of the team went with me. And he took one dude with him, which I think was a TAC ECW dude, and I felt bad for that dude.
Yeah.
He was just so stubborn. He's like, "Fuck it, we're going the other way." I mean, we all, from the LPO down, and even the OIC went with me. And then when we got back, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Right. But when we got back, he pulled me aside and like tried to read my ass a little bit, and I was just told him, I was like, "I'm not. That is completely unsafe. You know what's going on here. Blah blah blah." And I can't. You risked a lot by doing that with the way that they work and their SOPs. Yeah, nothing happened. You didn't hit anything, but like, not a good practice. And I think after that, and I'm sure he talked to some of the other dudes. They never did that again.
Yeah.
But that was the only and I think it was just, I don't know if he felt like I was running the routes because of the threat, that maybe I was taking away, I don't know, some of his decision making or whatever. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, it all worked out.
Yeah, I think the important part on that is like, no matter, like, as long as you're doing the right thing for the right reason, dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who, what rank,
it doesn't.
any of that. Like,
especially when life's on the line.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you alluded to your incident.
Yeah.
Yep. What happened there?
So, yeah. Well, at this point, I think I had been blown up this is the third time I got blown up. So third time's a charm. Got the Medivac bird. Got that badge on my Girl Scout ribbon. So I had blown up twice before, one in a truck, one I was outside the truck clearing. And ironically enough, it was the same dude that got me blown up was an Army civil affairs guy who used to be a combat engineer. So I don't know why we kept putting him in the driver's seat, dude. But long story short, we were clearing a new Overwatch position in a really bad Taliban infested village, right? So we had the Iraqi army with us, and we were building an Overwatch for them, so that we were trying to push Taliban out, right, and trying to empower the Afghanis to take over their own country. But they were deathly afraid of the Taliban. So we went to this one village, started building this Overwatch position, got late, and we're literally our base was I don't know, 3-4 clicks away. So we told them, we even had them covered with our big, God, I don't remember the name of that gun. I hated it though, and it would go off because it would shake the whole base. But it was a big giant mortar gun, I shot 120s or something, and that thing would go 13 clicks.
Yeah.
So we're like, we have you covered, and if anything happens, you're on the radio, we'll be here. Well, when we left overnight, they fled because they were so scared of the Taliban. And so it was 2 days later, we had a mission going back. And I told all the SEALs, I was like, this place is going to be fucking littered with IEDs. Just plan on it. So 3 clicks out, literally a click out of our base, I started clearing on foot, me and Zach and the CMRG. And so by the time we got to this new construction that we were building this Overwatch position, everybody behind me in the trucks and the side-by-sides were growing restless again because they're just puttering along while we're doing all the work.
Yeah.
And I told them, do not drive off any road that I have not cleared. Well, as soon as we get there, the dude in the flatbed up armored truck the civil affairs guy, just like he drives right by me and then turns into the fresh dirt. And how he didn't hit nothing, I don't know, like super lucky. So, well, monkey see, monkey do. The next side-by-side was 2 of our SEAL medics. And so Thorny, which if he's listening to this, love you, brother, because he was the one that was he was one of the ones that helped save me.
Yeah.
But anyway, Thorny was going to just pull in right next to him, right? Tactical park. And I freaking run out in front of him, put my hand up, stop the whole thing, backed him up, started clearing this dude out, right? And I only have radio comms with him. Well, the problem with trying to clear with a metal detector on a giant up armored truck, as you know, you like a full meter out of the truck, you ain't getting shit.
Yep.
Well, I found an IED maybe 6-7 feet from the truck, a 40-pound pressure plate. And so I'm like, well, all right, there's this. I didn't find anything else because you can't get close. Mm-hmm. Later on in the story, you'll find out he missed a pressure plate by like 2 inches on his tire. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay in your mirror. And I'm on comms with him, right? So I'm backing him up. I'm like, I'm going to back you up on the same tracks. Do not leave the tracks. I'm going to stay in your mirror so that you don't hit this pressure plate that I just found. So I put myself between the pressure plate I just found and the truck and was backing him up. Well, this dude, this jamoke, as The Rock would say, he cranks the wheel. Like, because I think he knows he can't make the turn or whatever. So he cranks the wheel and hits a pressure plate, another 40-pounder, and I was 15 feet from it. And so the last thing I remember was, and everything's slow motion, like slowed down, right? I remember the ground coming up at me slowly. Yeah. I remember feeling weightless. And then the next thing I see my leg just go bam. And like, it looked to me like it went 90 degrees at the knee.
Yeah.
And then I was out and I was blacked out. And then what I didn't know is it actually blew me over the pressure plate I just found, and I landed on the other side of that. So if I had landed on that, it would have been like double whammy.
Yeah.
So when I came to, right when I came to, I see Zach Phillips, and he's got the medic behind him, Thorny, and they're clearing to me. You know, they might have not even 50 yards to clear to me. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to jump up because I thought I was still getting blown up. Yeah. When I jumped up and I landed on that leg, I just collapsed. Yeah. And that's when I saw the leg, and it was just obviously mangled. And I thought I lost it at that point. And you know what's kind of funny is talking to a lot of dudes that have lost their legs, like Isaac Asbury, some other dudes, because it was a clean sever, like all those nerves like suck in. Yeah. And they didn't really feel the pain for a while. You know, the adrenaline, all that stuff pumping, they didn't feel the pain. But because mine wasn't a clean sever and all those nerve endings were out there, dude, as soon as I looked at it, level 10 pain. Like, I now know what a level 10 pain is. And I must have sounded like a little bitch, dude. But so I see him clearing to me. And so I grab my med kit, because we all kept it in our right cargo pocket. Like every team has their SOP, right? Mm-hmm. Grab that shit. And I remember Zach or Thorny telling me, like, fuck yeah, dude, Weaver's on it. He's going to do his self-aid. He's getting his kit out. He's going to get his tourniquet. Well, I see him clearing to me, and I was in so much pain that my morphine was underneath my tourniquet. So, like, I unwrap it, grab my tourniquet, chuck that shit. I'm like, they're going to get to me to grab my morphine, hit my morphine like ASAP. Because I'm like, I got to get this pain under control. And they're going to get to me in a minute, dude. I'll be fine without a tourniquet for a minute. Yeah. So then they get to me and got me out of there, pulled me out of that IED zone, and then started going to work, man. Luckily, we had 2 medics with us that day. So, which, by the way, tourniquets in real life, which this also goes to Tutu, like when they would talk about putting tourniquets on, that shit is painful, dude. Yeah. Like, it is insane pain. That pain of the tourniquet took over from the pain of my leg. Really? It was that intense. So to do a tourniquet in real life, excruciating. So they put the tourniquet on and they kept cranking it down, and I was like, Thorny, you're good. And he's like, no, you're still bleeding, dude. I was like, no, you're good. So when all that's going down and I'm on the stretcher and the helo's inbound, which there's another story about that too. But, you know, we had the guys in war that had been hit had this you know, kind of a sick thing where like whenever you got hit or shot, you had to do a picture with your thumbs up. It was like the cool guy picture, right?
Yeah.
I think some dudes even had a picture holding their fucking leg that just got blown off with a thumbs up and a smile. So here I am in like excruciating pain. I had chewed through both fentanyl lollipops that Thorny gave me.
Yeah.
Just chewed through them. Didn't do fuck all. Which I found out later, you're not supposed to chew through them. You're supposed to suck on them slowly, right? And then Zach, he's like, Weaver, he's like, you know what we got to do? We got to take the picture, dude. And I'm breathing like I'm giving birth to a child, like a pregnant woman, just in heat. And I'm like, all right, God damn it. Well, you better hurry up because I only have 5 seconds of cool left in me. And so that was the 5 seconds of cool picture. That's now like semi-famous in our little group, right?
Yeah.
So I have a picture of me, like legs purple, thumbs up, all these dudes around me with a thumbs up. And then, yeah, the bird came. And as soon as the bird picked up, like firefights ensued.
Really?
Yeah. But that was pretty much that story, yeah.
Dude.
And they still say I quit early on them.
Yeah. That's what I heard at the retirement.
Yeah, that's what Zach says. Yeah, when he quit. That was, I don't know, maybe 4 months, maybe a little more than 4 months in. But
Yeah.
in just 4 months, I had done 30 IEDs,
Yeah.
11 in one day. So, yeah, it was a very kinetic deployment for sure.
Yeah.
Dozens of firefights.
That's sounds intense all the way around.
Yeah, it was. But, you know, you're doing what you had trained years at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, by the time you get to a team and a workup, you're 2 years in training.
Yeah.
At least, you know, second deployment, like years you've been training to do this, and now you finally get to do it.
Yeah.
And dude, there's just something to be said for how that feels, how amazing that was.
Yeah.
Like you have this primal existence in all of your senses. So all of your senses are super heightened. And you don't give a fuck about materialistic things, like nothing. Yeah, you care about your family back at home, but like you are 100% physically, mentally, spiritually in that moment. And there's something that's just so primal about that. And maybe that's why guys get off on war or whatever. Like I can't even explain how you feel in that moment. So like that was pretty cool to be able to do that.
That actually makes me think of something. So every time I've gone on a deployment, no matter what it's been on, I like once I go, when I say goodbye to the family, I have this like mind shift that is it turns off and it puts all family, all home stuff kind of just pretty low on the priority list.
Yep.
And you know, some of that is because I know that, like you said, you know, we come back and we're like, all right, I want to do it my way again. They're like, we've been doing it our way, and it's kind of worked for like 6, 9, 12 months, however long you've been gone, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have something like that too, where like when you left, there's kind of like a switch, and then when you came back, it kind of
100%. 100%. Yeah, you do. And I think the deployment matters too.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was in Bahrain, my wife was actually pregnant with my son, Caden, right now. And I did get to come back for that birth, so that was awesome. But then I was like 10 days home and then peace out. I'm going back to Bahrain, you know. So that was a little different, but the same thing, like you just have a different mission. You know, we were doing MCM back then, and you do separate, you know, church and state, if you will, family and your job on deployment. And your family does become, I'm not going to say they become less important. They are not part of your daily routine and your daily priorities. So you do focus way more on the job, especially in war. In war, it was crazy. Like we still had, what do we have? We had Skype back then, which was shitty as fuck.
Yeah.
But like you could Skype, you know, your family, and there was always email, stuff like that. But you can't, I don't know. This is gonna make you sound like a douchebag for not putting family first, right? That's the EOD motto, which I found to be bullshit.
Yeah.
In any command, your officers will be like, family first. Well, if you truly put family first, you wouldn't be successful in this job.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody, people don't want to hear that, but like that's just the hard facts. Like to be honestly, to be good at anything, you need to become obsessive at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know too many people that can be obsessive with family life and successful in their job. So you have to be good at balancing both. Yeah. I've even said, you know, family first, family important, but I think you need to be able to balance that.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, right?
Yeah. I try and, you know, well, I think I've said it before on here and I say it all the time to people. For me, the best thing that happened at the beginning of my career was that I didn't have a family because I was able to, with no like, I don't know, words, they're hard.
I know. Yes, they are. Yeah.
But I was able to just spend all of my time, and I pretty much did. I spent all of my time reading pubs, training, not like,
and it made you good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was able to get good and proficient a lot faster than when I looked around at some of the guys that had families. I'm not blaming them. It's like, it's not like I want them to not care about their kids or their wife, you know, like that's not it at all. It's just, for me, I actually felt lucky that I didn't find my now wife and everything until I had already got a lot of the basics down.
No, you are lucky for that.
100%. But I know for me, it's like, I chose times to flip back and forth. Like there's times that my family's first, and then there's times that work is first. And sometimes I choose the wrong times, and my wife lets me know.
We all
do. You know, it's just hard.
Oh, that's part of the managing of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like knowing when you can give that 100% to your family. And I think that's, you know, the first time I really, truly got to give 100% to my family was COVID. You know what I mean? Like we had 3 months off at home. Like, what the hell am I going to do? I ended up painting my hot rod. Yeah. But like, that's also when I found out teachers need to be paid a lot more, and I'm not a good stay-at-home dad for teaching. Yeah. Because kids had to do that online shit. Oh my God. I'd rather be at war. I'd rather be going down on IED. But that was like the first time I got to really be with my family 100%. And it's like, shit, dude, this is really important. So, and that's the great thing about retirement now is like, I'll probably get my wife sick of me.
Right.
Because I'm home all the time. Like, when are you going on your next trip? Luckily with my new job, I will be traveling a little bit. So, but yeah, it's management. Yeah. That's all it is. It's time management.
Yeah. So went to 2-2, spent time there. I know, you know, like you said, that's kind of where we met. And
do you remember the first time we kind of like bonded, what it was over? Because it blew me away.
I'm sure it was something about me pretending that I was still decent at something.
Oh, get the fuck out of here, dude. You're running, bro. Because I ran track in high school. I played football, ran track. Yeah. And I think of myself as a decent runner back in the day. Not now, especially after getting blown up.
Yeah.
And then you told me your running times, and I was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, insane. You are being crazy modest. Like, your run times are the stuff of legends, dude.
Those were a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. I say the same thing.
It is funny though, because I look at, there were times where, you know, in EOD, maybe I'm the only one, but there were times where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Why did I choose this? Why am I here? Just because, you know, like it gets stressful, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'd sit there and I'd look at, you know, like, okay, the guys that I was running with, where are they now? And I'm like, this dude, there's a picture of this dude, Scott Bows, something like that. So I used to run with him. He was actually a bunch of years younger than me, but we would train together.
EOD guy?
No.
Just a regular.
Yep. Yeah. Just before I came in, when I was running. And that's all I did. I couldn't lift things, but I could run.
Well, with your times, you had to do nothing but run.
But I remember thinking, like, in one of those, you know, like, why am I here? Why did I choose this? Because I had some options before EOD, and there's a picture of him. He ran the San Jose half marathon. There's a picture of him. This, you know, I think probably a couple inches shorter than me, so 5'7", 5'8", white guy, mid stride, still like only half as tall as the 3 Kenyans that he's right next to.
Yeah.
Ran a 1:03 half marathon.
God dang.
Yeah, like, and I'm like,
That's insane.
Man, if I would have just kept training and not done this EOD thing, I could be doing that, you know. But
you know what's funny? Like, for the listeners, because I don't know if you've talked about your running before, but like, I thought I was a decent runner. I had a 18-minute 5K before I came into EOD. I think I even told you that, and it was like you modest like you are now, and you kind of chuckled. And then what's your all-time 5K? Let's just get this out there for the listeners.
Sub 15.
Yeah, a 14 something. Like, are you freaking kidding me, dude? What is that miles? Like, what's your mile average?
I'd have to do the math now, but it was
3.1 miles. So you're doing sub 5-minute miles for 3 miles.
Yeah,
that's insane, bro. Like, that's insane. Yeah. So, like, give you props for that. I was gonna definitely embarrass you when I came on, because I'm like, that's what I remember about Duran is like his, and even in like your 400 and 800, I think was stupid, because I ran the 400 in high school, and I think I ran a 50 flat in high school, which is pretty fast for a white boy.
That is.
And your times are just stupid, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like the 5K was my thing. I like that. That was honestly, so what I liked about that, this is going to sound weird to some and make perfect sense to others. What I liked about it is that, you know, you get about a mile in and then it hurts.
Yeah.
And you just, like, I loved the suffering through to the end, and then being there. And, you know, with my times, I still didn't win a lot. There's just where I live.
Because you're racing Kenyans.
Yeah.
You race anybody that we know in the community, you're winning by a long shot.
It is just, I loved suffering. Like, I don't know why.
Dude, I 100% get it. And like, even working out now at 46, I try to stay in shape. I love to lift. There's some switch sometimes, not every workout.
Yeah.
That comes where it hurts and it's painful, and that drives you even harder.
Yep.
I get it 100%, dude. And maybe that's probably why you win EOD. Like, I think you have to embrace the suck. I hate using that because that's like the famous, saying, but like, it's true. You do. You have to embrace the suck, man.
Yeah. For me, I needed 3 things why I wanted to go EOD. Like, so when I came in the military, I was looking for a change, and I needed 3 things. I needed something that could pay enough to pay my portion of a house that I had bought. I needed something that was mentally challenging, and I needed something that was physically challenging. I was like, I need a
EOD.
job that does that. Yeah, exactly.
3,
Like it hit every wicket.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. It's awesome. I just wanted to put you on the spot there for a second.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, because we all have our little things.
Yeah.
You know, I got into lifting later on. Most people know me. Even at my retirement, you know, Matty Sherbs was kind of like the master of ceremonies, because he's my best friend in EOD. Mm-hmm. And we met in a dick measuring competition with weights.
Yeah.
And that's how our love really was founded, was in the iron and in the gym. And his stats are just absolutely insane. So I'll make sure I'm going to put those out just to kind of embarrass him. But he's the only EOD tech I know that did the 666 challenge.
Yeah, I remember when he did that.
Dude, insane. And people that don't lift, I don't think they understand how incredible that is.
Yeah.
You know, the 666 challenge, for those that don't know, is you have to do a 600-pound deadlift, a 600-pound squat, and you have to run a sub 6-minute mile, all within 24 hours. And it has to be sanctioned by a certified powerlifting judge. Yeah. So he did it. He did it at a body weight of 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So triple body weight deadlift, triple body weight squat, which that's the most impressive thing. Yeah. I think it was a 605 squat. He did a 605 squat at 200 pounds and still ran. Yeah, he's not a great runner, you know, and he'll be the first one to tell you that, but he still ran like a 550. Yep. 554, something like that, mile, after doing a 600 pounds triple bodyweight squat. Absolutely insane. And he did it in like 12 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane. I mean, you know, going back to your mile time, what, 4:45?
4:45, yeah.
Which is, you know, I remember back in high school, the first time I broke 5, I like my coach told us, he's like, hey, just so you know, the amount of people in the United States that can break 5 minutes, no matter what age, it's in the single digit percentiles. And I'm pretty sure it's like 1-ish%.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of people. So, I mean, hitting that is pretty solid.
I've only thrown up twice in my life, and that was one of them. But, you know, I came off running the 400. That was my specialty. Training for the military. Because even before EOD, there was this competition called the Ironman on base. So it's like the best PRT.
Yeah.
You know, so, and back then, you know, we did the run and all that stuff. So I was trying to get my 1.5 miles down. I got my 1.5 miles down to an 8 flat.
Nice.
In that process is when I ran that 445 and puked my guts out.
Yeah.
So way less than a 5K, you know what I mean? But that whole analogy of like the first 400, you start filling it out, and everyone after that just sucks really bad until you come across that mile. And I'll never ever see that time ever again.
Yeah.
Maybe if I rode a bicycle, I'm probably, you know what I mean? Like right now, for me to do a 9-minute mile is like, woohoo.
Yeah. What actually got you into, well, when did you start doing like the powerlifting thing?
So I always loved lifting, and I kind of came from like a bodybuilding background, just that style of working out, even before EOD. And then coming to Virginia Beach and then going to like brute strength gym and just kind of surrounding myself with those kind of individuals, I just like, that was me, dude, just a meathead, and then start getting into powerlifting. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it was also good for EOD and what we were doing, you know, carrying a lot of weight. That transferred into Strongman, which I absolutely love. Even to this day, I love Strongman. I think, you know, I did CrossFit for a while too. I did CrossFit for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Won the winning games 4 years in a row. Nice. And then I was like, after that, I found Strongman, and I was like, that's what I'm doing. So you talk about functional strength. There's nothing better than Strongman.
Yeah.
You know, grabbing a robot out of a truck and moving it, using that transverse plane is just, that's Strongman.
Yeah.
So I think it transfers very well. And then I still stayed in shape, but it was all like C2 machines, like rowing, ski erg. I actually have all three of these machines in my garage: the rower, the ski erg, and the bike, to kind of stay in shape, just because I don't run. But yeah, then it became, I kind of wanted to get into this too, talk about fitness and our what we are portrayed as EOD. So these guys, it kind of irks me, these guys that get in and then rest on their laurels and get fat and lazy. Oh, I fucking hate that, dude. You know, you're representing the community as a whole. You're representing the guys on the wall. You're representing everything. Like when the first impression, when you walk into a room, whether you're with SEALs, you know, the Army, wherever you're at, and you're supposed to be like Navy EOD, supposed to be like the shit.
Yeah.
And you're a fat, lazy piece of shit. I'm not going to call it any names, but like we all know there's a few of those. Like, no, man, no, that doesn't sit well with me. So like every team I've ever been on or had as a team chief, like that was a huge proponent, was like making sure that dudes were in shape. But anyway, so like I gave myself goals, and that's what keeps me in the gym, right? Is like either a competition or just a goal. Like I had a stupid goal in Africa. I was like, I'm going to PR my deadlift, lifetime PR. And then the same month, I'm going to do a marathon on the rower. So 26 miles on the rower. At the same time, I must have hated my back. Dude.
Yeah, right?
And I did. Because it was like a couple weeks later, I deadlifted 625 and then went in and did this marathon row. And it was fucking brutal, dude. It was brutal. 3-something hours on the rower. But I did it. Yeah, but I did it. You want to talk about reaching into that mental toughness? I had to do it for that one.
Yeah.
I had my new guys bringing me like donuts from the galley so I could like eat them while I was rowing. But I think you really need to do shit like that. Yeah. You need to get uncomfortable. And you can't rest on your laurels. I think, especially towards the end of my career, because of the reputation I had from war and all the things I did, you know, you start maybe resting a little bit on your laurels, and like the SEALs we talked about earlier. So for me, I have to find an uncomfortable place to get back into, whether that's in the gym or even recently with this new job, I had to get up and do a teach back on a subject that I didn't know much about at all. And all those, you remember those feelings of like nervousness from like EOD school or your master board?
Yeah.
Bro, all that shit came back. And here I am 46 and I'm going through this again. I crushed it. So, but I needed that. I needed that to like spark something in me. I think we should all do that. Look for that uncomfortableness. Don't rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
You know, get uncomfortable once in a while.
Yeah.
It makes you a better person.
It does. I agree. I know, you know, speaking personally and arguably fairly recently, you know, I hit that. Like, there's definitely times where it's like, all right, I'm not going to do a whole lot because, you know, I know where I'm at.
Yep.
And then, you know, you get used to not doing a whole lot. And then you start realizing, well, you know, I can get back there quick.
Yep.
And then, well, I can get back there, you know, if I try. I'll start next Monday.
Yep.
And then Monday. And
We all do that.
Yeah. But I know for me too, like mentally, I am in such a better place when I hate myself. And not literally, but when I do stuff that is absolutely ridiculous. Back in Guam, I was not training for running. I had shifted because, you know, when you run fast, like you don't lift a whole lot, and you're right. Like,
oh yeah, it's hard to do both. Really hard.
Part of my my injuries are because I didn't switch to lifting heavier and getting stronger in that way early enough. But I just, when things came up at work, I just picked it up and I went. You know.
Yep.
My back hates me now.
Yep.
But you know, I just, there was a cross island run or around the island run. I don't know. It was like 32 miles, something like that. And I was like, God, I haven't done anything that's challenged me.
Was that like 2.5 hours for you?
No,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
I bet it was,
dude. It was miserable.
I don't even want to drive 32 miles.
Right?
You tell me how to run, I'm gonna tell you to fuck off.
But it's the same thing. Like I reverted to the running thing that I knew. Right? Like, okay, cool. I haven't been doing anything serious for a while. I haven't challenged myself for a while. Like, let's go and see if I can do it.
Yep.
You know, just straight up see if I can do it.
Yep.
And it was miserable, and I probably cried a little bit.
Yep.
But you know, like afterwards, you feel good.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, oh, dude,
100%.
Okay, like,
you're hurt, you're broken, but you feel good. Mentally, you're better. You're in a better place.
Exactly. And yeah, every time I've been consistent with putting myself in miserable places, like specifically physically, mentally, I'm better off.
Yep.
And like I can kind of tell now when, like, mentally I'm just starting to get a little more humdrum, you know? And I'm like, okay, I need to do the physical stuff again. I need to get harder on that. Like,
Yep.
And I look back, I'm like, yep, it's been a while.
That's another reason why I pick up Strongman and then purposely put competitions. When I started off, I was doing a lot.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to be able to like go to the Arnold, compete there, and do very, very well on a world stage. But the older I got, the more it hurts, you know? And so I would do like one a year, but I would purposely do that to get my ass back in shape. And I think you got to do something. You got to find whatever you need to motivate you to get off the fucking couch, to get out of that complacency.
Yeah.
If it's a competition, so like you have a D-Day, like this is your day, whatever. And if you're not ready, then you're going to look like shit.
Yeah.
And mentally, most of us are like, okay, dude, that's it. Let's go to work.
Yeah. What was it like to go from doing Strongman, competing, and then being like, okay, I'm going to try to get to Arnold?
That was, well, I also took to it really well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the foundation of powerlifting. I'm sure it was. And then also just the athletic stuff. So I played football till late in my life. Was always pretty athletic. And that translated so well into strongman. It was just a perfect fit for me. So like my very first strongman competition, I took second, and I qualified for nationals my very first competition, and that really lit the fire, dude.
That's awesome.
And so then I transitioned. I was actually on a Miami deployment, Southcom, and I found the Battle Axe gym with Mike, MDLP. He's this 260-pound tatted Colombian. You got to meet him in retirement. The guy's
good dude.
The guy's amazing. He's a character, and we ended up bonding like no other. But he is one of the best coaches I've ever worked on with powerlifting and strongman. So he kind of took me under his wing, and that's when we started reaching for the Arnold and stuff like that. And so under his tutelage, like that stage is insane.
Yeah,
it's insane. I can't even, if you've never been to the Arnold and you're into fitness, you got to go. It's like one of those bucket list things. You just got to go one time. There's way too many people for me. But yeah, I got to meet my heroes in the game. And then I got to compete against some amazing individuals, and being taken second in that was just like insane. So I did that for a couple years. And then I ended up tearing spinal erector in one competition, like right before deployment too. Jeez. So I was like, all right, I'll dial it back a little bit. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question. How was training at that level? Because obviously you had to be very dedicated.
Yes.
And then coupling that with still doing the job. How was that balance?
So luckily in our job, like we do get that time to work out. So that's a good question, dude. I think it's easier for us to be able to do something like that because of the time we get to work out.
Yeah.
And no matter how serious you are, I mean, unless you are like world's strongest man, then your whole life revolves around it. But like the diet, the lifestyle at my level was definitely easy, attainable, still having our job. You know, you train 1 to 2 hours a day and then maintain your diet. Try not to drink, you know, so I would do like a few months out from the comps, just not drink.
Yeah.
And then you just get, you know, it's a stepping process, you know, 6 months out, this is where you need to be, blah, blah, blah. And then up to it, the cutting sucked.
Yeah.
And Mike is a fucking wizard when it comes to cutting. Yeah. I remember the last strongman comp I did, I decided to go down to 220. I normally walk around about 235. And he got me down literally eating ice cube chips on the way up there. It was 4 hours away from here because it was during COVID. And they were the only ones that had a competition going at that time. And I was eating ice chips. He got me weigh-ins 219.4. And the cutoff was 220. Like, the dude is a mad scientist. And then, you know, get the IV that night, refuel. I felt amazing and so strong. So I won that, took first in that one.
That's awesome.
And that's the last one I've done since then. So
yeah. That's are you planning on, now that you're, you know, done and moving, because you're going to be moving soon too, right?
Yep, moving this summer.
Are you planning on continuing competitions occasionally, or just focus on the fitness?
That's a good question. Because I think everything going on in my life right now, I've definitely pulled back a little bit from the gym, just from retirement, the VA stuff, starting a new job, closing on a house. Like, it's been pretty full.
Yeah.
So like I still work out, but right now I'm kind of like in a maintain phase, and I need that. I'm actually signed up for a competition this August at Brute for a strongman, but I don't think we're going to be here for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I need to.
Yeah.
I think I need to, you know, and go in the masters category now.
Yeah.
Thank God for that, because the weights are a little bit lighter. It just it keeps me moving, keeps me in the gym, you know, doing what I need to do. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's one thing I love working out. Like it's a passion. It's definitely one of my pastimes. And like right now, I just do the old school kind of bodybuilding stuff. You know, get a sick pump like that's, and then a little bit of cardio.
Yeah.
And I'm good.
I got
now.
I got a buddy that's been into working out for ever. He used to run with me, and then eventually he like realized that'll only get you so far, and he switched. And what he calls it, because he's just done the same thing. He just does the bodybuilding thing, but he doesn't call it bodybuilding. He just calls it the look good naked workouts. That's what he's been doing, and
that's the number one rule, dude. Look good naked.
Yeah, not to be tell too much, but I mean he looks pretty good naked.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying. I mean, my wife does CrossFit. She's insane, dude.
Yeah.
She has abs. I'm like, can we turn the lights off when we make love, honey? Can I leave my shirt on?
Yeah, we actually talked about this at your retirement, and I thought about it, and I'll bring up cars too, but the working out thing, and then the car side, right? That obviously there's EOD techs and military members that work out and all that, but I think for the most part you've gone and done the competitions and at least spent time, a fair amount of time in gyms outside of just the military gyms as well, right?
Yep.
And then on the car side, that gives you your exposure to not just the daily job people that you're working with, people on the outside. Has that been like a purposeful thing to find things outside of just work?
Yes. Let me take a quick
let's
bathroom
do
break.
Yep, absolutely.
Because I'm old.
All right, we're back. Okay. We're a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
So finding things outside of work with people that have a shared interest but is not work related. Was that purposeful?
I think we talked a little bit about this before, but just for everybody listening, I think it's mentally helpful to have some kind of a hobby that takes you away from EOD. It takes you away from that aspect, because especially it consumes your life so much. Even if we're not going to war, being on a team is so busy and so heavy, and so like that's all you see every day, all day. You need some kind of an outlet, whether it be creatively or just to get away. Whatever your thing is having some kind of a hobby. For me, obviously the gym, a big one, and meeting a lot of dudes outside of the military that were in that was huge. But then before EOD, it was cars. I grew up, my dad owned a body shop. Nice. I'm a third generation body paint guy. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I knew as a kid. And that was, it turned into my passion, is like building Mustangs, Fox bodies, right? So, and then doing custom paint on Harleys and stuff like that. So I still do custom paint on the side. I've painted a couple EOD guys' stuff. Nice. Danny actually has a badass Harley that he gave me free reign, creative reign, to do whatever I wanted.
That's awesome.
And we created something unbelievably unique. So like, maybe we can get a picture of that and
that'd be cool.
But it turned out amazing. But for me, it's therapy.
Yeah.
And having that outside that has nothing to do with hobby, whatever you want to call it, is therapy. Mm-hmm. Like I can leave everything and go and disappear mentally and physically in the garage, turning wrenches or, painting, doing Cerakote. I do a lot of Cerakote stuff now.
Nice.
I can disappear for like hours.
Yeah. And
then come back, and I don't know. It's a good outlet mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think every dude should have it. Like, it is great to be obsessed. You cannot be successful. This is my saying, not a real. You can't be successful unless you're obsessed with something.
Yeah.
In other words, devoting everything to it, which is what we did, coming into EOD. That being said, you should also find something therapeutic that will help you. Because this is something, and we could branch off into this too, but mental health is huge now. You have all these guys coming off war, and I mentioned this in my speech at my retirement about you know, a lot of us are still at war. It's just the war has changed with demons. You know, the guys dealing with these demons is now the battlefront. And in a lot of ways, it's worse. You know, those guys come when you least expect it, when your guard is down, and you don't know how, you're not trained how to fight that war.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about going down an IED and having heart rate's normal and you feel normal because you're trained. It's beaten into you like months, years worth of training. And that mental realm of dealing with demons, nobody is trained. And I think we're catching up with it now, but even now, there's still a stigma in some places. You know, when you want to screen for a certain place that a lot of us do, if you have a mental hit on your record, PTSD or whatnot, then that's a red flag, and then you can't go there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which personally I think is bullshit. But because if you ever went downrange and did anything or saw stuff, like, you're gonna have something, you know, varying degrees of PTSD or whatnot, but there's gonna be some kind of, or you just lose a close friend. Like we've lost a lot of dudes in EOD, you know, and a lot of them super close. That leaves something there, you know, and like most of us, we just push that shit down, bury it, don't ever bring it up again. You know what I mean? But it comes to a point where you can't do that. And it will surface in other areas of your life, marriages, like family, kids, like all that shit. So yeah, I think we are doing a good job at addressing it now with having the help, but I don't think we're doing enough.
Yeah.
And so having that outlet, that hobby, whatever you want to call it, is therapeutic. I think it's paramount. Even got kids that have never been to war, maybe new kids in EOD, there's still a fuck ton of stressors, dude, in our community and our job. You got to have an outlet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, you know, specifically talking to the guys that are coming in now, you know, and like you said, the stressors in the job, like, I'm closing in on 17 years, and there's still crap that I have to study for that I have to like spend a bunch of time learning, man.
Yep.
And it's funny because you get through and you're like, oh, dude, all I gotta do, like, okay, I'll get DOS, I'll get scuba soup, you know, and then I'll take my senior board, and then like I'll just relax for a minute, and then you take your senior board, and everybody reminds you that you're still worthless. Like no matter how good you did, that's just, you just barely hit the ice, you know, the tip, right? And then now I'll get this next qual and this next thing, and then, oh man, it's been a few years. Oh, now I got to start thinking about that master board.
Ooh, board.
And then you do that master board, and you're like, oh, okay,
Is that not the most stressful month of your life?
Dude,
insane.
I was super lucky in that my wife was my girlfriend when I did my senior board, and my senior board was a month, which there's goods and bads to that. I think they may expect you to know more. Now it's 2 weeks.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm so far out of the loop.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So
I would no shit fail a senior board right now, guaranteed.
So it's funny. That's one of my collaterals right now is EWS coordinator.
Nice.
And I there's some certain things that I do with it. But I tell all the guys, I'm like, you know more about it lets me know how much I need to get back in those books, right? Because like that's not an acceptable thing or whatever. It's just a fact that like the things that I'm responsible for now aren't all the nitty gritty details on the tools, right? But there's just always something, and then you got to make chief, and then now you're a chief, and now you're responsible for a whole team and making sure dudes are trained so that they can go out and, aside from the way I looked at being a team chief was aside from
best job in the fucking EOD.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But at the same time, like it is the most stressful job that I've had. 'Cause like you are responsible for every one of those members on that team.
And the success of that team.
Yeah.
Or the failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on the chief, dude. It's not on the OIC.
Exactly.
It's you, man.
Yep. But man, it's just like, no matter where you're at, wherever you're at, you're always like, okay, as soon as I hit that next thing, it's going to be smooth sailing. And then you get there and you're like, dude, they didn't even give me a sail for this.
Yeah,
Like,
yep.
I'm still paddling.
That's so true.
But
I think the team chief was my favorite job, and I've done a lot of really cool shit. I've been very, very blessed in my career. I did a lot of cool shit, even up to the end. Got to do some really cool shit, dude. But training your team and going on deployment and mentoring them and making sure they were prepared for anything, dude, I had more fun doing that. Yes, the stressors were there 100%, but the outcome was just amazing. And then when you did do a good job, the validity in that you're valid, being, I don't know, words are tough, right?
Yeah.
but basically the verification that you were good is those dudes still come to you for advice afterwards, many years later, many teams later. And I've been lucky enough to have that. Like my new guys that are no longer new guys, still hang out, still come over, still ask for advice. Like that is to this day rewarding.
Yeah.
And that was my Africa deployment, like 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. There's no better feeling than knowing that like the dudes you trained wanted to learned, and then you start seeing them training other dudes.
Yep.
And yeah, it
is awesome.
Yeah.
Also, one of the hardest things I ever had to do in EOD was fire a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fucking hard. I lost sleep over that shit.
Yeah.
Because you're at that point, we were the second or third team he had been bounced to. And so it was kind of like kick the can down the block, which is wrong.
Yep.
Like, we took him on and it didn't get any better. And it was on deployment and he was missing ops, And so long story short, I even tried to give him EOD appreciation. And in DJ, the front gate, was run by Army National Guard.
Yeah.
I put him on the front gate for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like searching Djibouti bags, humble. We would leave in our boat to go dive and do some awesome shit and see him and like wave and rub it in. And it didn't work.
Really?
And then we ended up having to kick him off, which eventually led him to being kicked out of the Navy, and I remember him calling me almost in tears, begging me to do something because he was losing his pay. What was he going to do with his family and all this shit? And I'm like, dude, and your DRB, before it went way south, this was all told to you.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to lose $1,000 a month. Like, how are you going to go home, look your wife in the eye, and at the time, it was like a 2-year-old boy, and tell them, we're going to have to move. We're going to have to sell shit because whatever. And that wasn't enough to scare him then. But then when it happened and he lost all that shit, it was like, oh, fuck. And that was hard. And it's still hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I think you do take on their successes and their failures as yours too, as a team chief. But in the long run, like, super successful team. Like, we did some amazing shit. I almost lost my leg again on that deployment because I'm stubborn. Which that's a good story too.
You should tell that.
All right. So we're in DJ and we're diving, and anybody that's been there knows that water is fucking nasty, dude. It's contaminated. They would kill camels and just throw the dead bodies in the water and let you diving in. It basically a biological warfare. It was like you're diving in. And I had my little leg, as my kids call it.
That's awesome.
That's your kids, right?
Yeah.
They make fun of my little leg. That's kind of fucked up.
That is messed up.
It's funny, though. My team with Matty Sherbs, they gave me the nickname Nemo because I had one little fin. You got to love you guys.
Right.
So anyway, we're in DJ. I'm the team chief. I'm going to be the first one in the water, and I'll be the last one when we leave deployment too. And I'm diving, and I cut my little leg, but I didn't realize it. I get back on the boat. I don't have a lot of feeling in that leg, and I'm like driving the boat because I was brought up with Joni Lanham's like the team chief drives the fucking boat. You know what I mean? So I'm driving the boat, and I'm bleeding. There's like a puddle of blood underneath me, and somebody finally noticed it. Like, oh shit, So just we had like, you know, every med kit that gets thrown on the boat that nobody ever uses or goes through. It was like some bandages and some tape and shit.
Yeah.
And you're good to go. So that weekend, literally like 24 hours later, I started coming down with a fever and like all this other stuff. I thought I was sick.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm in my clue and I'm sick. And I'm like, well, we don't have anything going on for 2 days. So I was like, I'm just gonna sleep it off. Meanwhile, like my leg is swelling, it's turning red, I'm getting cellulitis, it's spreading up my lymph nodes, and it's about to my groin area. When I'm on FaceTime with my wife, who's an RN, she's a nurse, and I was telling her like I feel like shit. But it's the flu. Like I'll be fine. And now I'm having trouble walking. Like I can't even walk on a leg. I was an idiot. But you're tough.
Yeah.
You're fucking hard.
Exactly.
Right? So I pan the phone on FaceTime down to my leg, and she's like, "You are a fucking idiot." She's like, "Get to the hospital right now." So I ended up getting one of my new guys, Seth, who's awesome. But Seth Marks, whoever knows him, he's like phenomenal kid. He got out because all the good guys are getting out.
Right.
But so he takes me to the hospital, and the doc's there, which luckily at DJ, it's all reservist docs. A lot of them have like practices back at home. They're like real doctors and real nurses. So I kind of lucked out there. They get there, and the dude was like calling a Medivac to get me out of there. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm like, I am not leaving my fucking team. You're not. He's like, well, I'm going to be on the phone with the CDC in Germany, Center for Disease Control, and we're going to get you some antibiotics. If you don't turn around in 24 hours, you're going home. Because if you don't turn around in 24 hours, you're going to lose your leg. And I was like, jeez. God dang it, again. But I was stubborn. Luckily, he put me on a concoction of antibiotics that, oh my God, dude, was bad. Like it fucked me up pretty bad. But anyway, I was in the hospital for 8 days, flat on my back, and that was absolutely horrible because there was no internet. It had like they wheeled around this. Most kids are not gonna remember this, but like in class in elementary, they used to roll around the TV with like the VHS tape player. So they rolled around a TV that had DVDs, you know, and that's all I had for 8 days. But luckily, my team came and visited me every day. OIC, Jackie Blackburn, she's amazing. Yeah. They took good care of me, and I was fucking miserable. But I didn't leave, and I ended up coming back from that and staying on deployment. But yeah, that was the second time I almost lost my leg because I was an idiot.
I mean, yeah, it's funny though, because like there's a bunch of times where I can think of myself or other people where we just try to be hard. We're like, oh man, this thing, it's not that big of a deal. Like I'll get it looked at later. You know, I've actually got something I'll tell you after this that I just
dude, it's just our like you can't make it through EOD and not be hard mentally, right? So like, oh dude, that's
so funny.
It is. It's a reoccurring theme with all of us.
It's funny because it worked out all right, but it'd be even funnier if it didn't. So
it did. You know what's funny about that story too? I told this at my retirement. John, who was my new guy who's a phenomenal new guy. Like I love the kid. I fucking love that kid. But anyway, he same deployment. I get out of the hospital. We're finally good. He's playing softball. Tears his Achilles tendon. Has to get medevaced out of the fucking country. So I'm like, you're getting medevaced because playing softball. I'm like, thank you for your service, John.
Combat deployment.
Yeah. I think I even said that in the hospital. I was like, can we get the CO to give him his Purple Heart now? Or
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So on the car front. So you said that's been a thing since you were well before the Navy.
I was born into that, not by choice.
Yeah.
But it's been a godsend. And, you know, I thank God that my dad, at the time, it was like Karate Kid. Yeah. Sand on, sand the car. When I would get punished at school, which was a lot, I would get sent home for fighting, get suspended. My dad would bring me to work with him, and I would there'd be like a van, and he'd be like, sand this whole freaking van. Yeah. So I hated it.
Yeah.
But I learned the trade, and I learned how to do body work and paint. And I thank him every day for that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize at the time, how much I would use it and how much it means to me now and how it is part of my therapy. Like, being able to take something and just make it, beautiful, if you will, through it's definitely an art form. 100% it's an art form. So it's like art therapy and turn that in. And so I've basically been building this Fox body for a while, and it's become one of the top Fox body builds in the world.
That's awesome.
It's gotten a lot of recognition, and I'm pretty proud of it, even though it doesn't run right now. It's also equally a stressor for me and a pain in my ass. Because that's the other, when you build a show car like that's nice, it's a stressor.
Yeah.
Just having it in the garage when you have little kids.
Oh,
it's a stressor.
dude, I didn't even think about that. I would lose it.
I put like barriers around it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, driving it, like I don't drive it in the fucking rain, like all this stuff. There's a part of me that misses the shitbox era,
right?
Where you could didn't matter, dude. Raining, whatever, just drive it. But yeah, like that's my passion right now.
Yeah. So has it been for something that first thing I thought of, right, with painting cars and then like prepping cars for paint, because painting, as far as I understand, painting is like the easy part.
It is.
That may take a few hours, but
100%.
Prepping it is days or weeks, right?
So, I mean, it is a skill and it is an art form. Like you definitely need to know how to paint, like to lay it down. But the actual work, 100%, you're right. The actual painting is a couple hours max. The prep is hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
Like the car that I have that I was talking about, there's 200 hours in the bodywork alone. So, and that's just the outside. Like I smoothed the whole engine bay. There's 83. I didn't even keep track of my hours when I painted it.
Yeah.
When I did the engine bay smooth, I was like, I'm going to keep track of my hours for this one just for shits and gigs. 83 hours just in smoothing the engine bay. Jeez. And painting that. So yeah. Yeah, that is a lot of work in it. The prep is 100% where your money's made in that game. I
think, since I am getting old, I have to relate everything, right? And the thing I think about in that, and then, when we were talking at your retirement, we were talking about a lot of guys are into woodworking too, right?
Yes, I love woodworking too. Love it.
I think, like, I got into woodworking for a while, and I still have some of the equipment, but now we won't get into what the garage looks like now, but let's just say it's not usable at this moment.
Yeah.
But when I did that, one of the reasons why I like that is I'm a really impatient person, right? Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take all this time and I'm going to make this beautiful thing. And then I get like half the way there. And then I want to just take, if it took 10 hours to get halfway done, I'm going to take 1 hour to finish the last 10.
Yeah.
And then it looks like crap, right? Because like you can't do that with that stuff.
No.
I imagine that painting a car is the same way. Like
same exact way.
Yeah. You have to do the whole time. Like you have to spend the time that it takes, and you may not even know how long it's going to take initially, right?
You can't know. Well, you might know, but like when you get jobs, insurance jobs or whatever, and it's like, this is the hours it's going to take. Mm-hmm. When you're doing something like a full complete, you don't really know the hours you're going to take. And let's just get this straight. I hate body work. I hate it with a passion. Like sanding Bondo is not fun.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely paramount to turn out a nice product. And in woodworking, it's the same thing. There's portions of woodworking that sucks.
Yeah.
It's the worst part, but like when you're laying that lacquer on or the final stain, that's when it all comes together. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with painting. When you put that clear coat on, it all comes together and it's just all those hours are worthwhile.
Yeah.
And there's a huge satisfaction in that.
That's the thing. It's like, I feel like that it's symbolic for a lot of things that we do, to include, might be a little bit of a stretch, but we're talking about EOD. So to include EOD, right?
Oh, 100%.
If you don't do all that time, all that basic stuff up front, reading those boring pubs, trying to figure out what's in
training
there, right?
hours on end.
Exactly. Because not all the training. In fact, it looks really cool to see the video of fast roping out of a helicopter
Yep.
or diving on a mine or whatever. Pick anything that we do.
Yep.
But 99% of the work
Sucks.
leading up to
I've
that.
said that so many times. Like all the cool guy shit you see, they don't ever look at like pre-dive, post-dive, all the work that goes into before that. Like it sucks.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
You look at, arguably one of the coolest things, if you're on the outside looking in, one of the coolest things is the skydive, right? The skydive with a ruck and your parachute and your kit and your oxygen and your helmet and everything on, right? To get to there,
They don't see the
middle,
hundreds of PLFs
exactly,
on gravel, pea gravel.
And when you look at that and you look at the dude weightless in the air, you don't think of how much weight that dude had to carry, put it on, walk to the plane, hop on the plane. It's probably like,
maybe sit on the plane on the runway for hours,
right?
In the heat, sweating your ass
100%.
off, start cramping because you're dehydrated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you didn't do all of that,
Yep.
then the end result, that picture or that image in your mind, for me, it's usually the
ruined.
image in the mind because I always forget to take the picture. But yeah, it like the end result sucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like that because for me, the woodworking when I was doing that, it forced me to just slow down and complete the whole process. And like, yeah, I don't know. I think I would 100% agree that having something outside that has nothing to do with EOD, where one, you can spend your time, whether it's alone or with people, but then also you can go to people that are not in the military, in EOD, or even if they are, you're talking about something completely different.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's liberating. It's freeing. It allows you to just decompress in a way without forcefully decompressing.
Dude, and honestly, it's probably saved a lot of dudes.
Yeah,
like that therapy, that outlet has probably saved a lot of dudes. And there's guys that's their calling. Now their second life.
Yep.
Look at Jeff O'Connor.
Yeah,
and his
exactly.
business. Like that is his second calling, and
Yeah.
he is completely immersed himself into woodworking, and the dude is fucking phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other dudes too that are doing the same thing, and they're super talented at it, and like that's their outlet.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's personally, like if I was to influence the new generation coming in, or even the people that are there now, man, is find that outlet.
Yeah.
Find that outlet that gets you away from work and get your mind off of work into something else, because it's therapeutic.
Yep. With the car, so obviously yours is a show car. It's got performance aspect to it, but you got to be careful with that because that kind of messes with the show portion of it, right?
Yeah, it's on the ragged edge of both.
Yeah.
Like it is an absolute fucking animal. Like it's overbuilt. Like
That's awesome.
It's a stroked 410 Windsor on nitrous. Like it's a drag motor stuffed into a street car.
That's awesome.
And that's a lot of my headache too, is like getting it to run just right is so hard.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That car, so a Fox body, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I think of a Fox body, right, that's a good build, because if you don't know what you want to do, you can take it either way.
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to do with it when you first got it?
Well, I've been into Fox bodies for a long time.
Okay.
I've had several of them. This one right here actually kind of plays into EOD. This story, how I got this car. So this car, I had already had a Fox body at home that was built, and I got blown up, injured, flat on my back in the hospital, and I'm in Portsmouth right when the brand new Wounded Warrior ward opened up there, and you just get that CSRB or whatever the hell it was bonus. I had $25,000 sitting in my account. I was expecting another $25,000, so I'm looking through all the ads to add another Fox body, and I 100% used the sympathy of me getting blown up to get the approval from the wife. So that's where I found this car. It was online. It's the first and last one I'll ever buy online, because it wasn't anything that the guy said it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found this like notchback. It's what I always wanted. And funnily enough, that was 11 years ago. And now these cars are highly sought after and worth a lot of money. But I've literally replaced every fucking thing on this car from like the ground up. It's been completely rebuilt and redone. But that's how I got that car. It was the second Fox body that I talked the wife into letting me get.
That's awesome.
You know, and it was funny enough though, with the retirement, I always said, I'm like, my retirement gift is going to be a new Mustang. And I told the wife this for months. I was like, I'm getting a new Mustang when I retire. Like, I think I earned it. You know what I mean? And she always thought I was joking around. And I was maybe 10% joking around, 90% like, that's going to happen. So, like, when I retired or around that time, I found the one, the new one, and I just went and bought it.
Nice.
And almost got divorced over that shit. So I've been like kissing ass and like trying to make amends, but now I have a new one and the Fox body. So
were you always into the show portion, or were you into the race speed?
No, that's good. So I definitely came into it with the drag racing and the racing and street racing too, which don't do that, kids. It's illegal.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I'll tell you why. So when I went to boot camp, I came into boot camp. I turned 23 in boot camp, so I had a little bit of legs.
Yeah,
not a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, you were older one there. Yeah, wiser.
And I knew what I wanted to do when I came into boot camp, right? And it wasn't being boot camp. And so I just wanted to get through that portion. So I, like, everybody just, you know, they're all 17, 18, 19, right? They're just chatty Cathys at night, right?
Yep.
We're always getting yelled at. And finally, I just told everybody to, in the nicest way possible, be quiet.
I'm sure that's the nicest way.
And I ended up doing this thing where I would tell them a story about street racing and running from the cops.
That is so awesome.
If they would be quiet. And they would all like sit there at the end of their beds.
That is so awesome.
And I would tell them, whether it was on my motorcycle or in my car, about
doing
stuff that I definitely do not do now. And I'm not even
story
joking.
Time at boot camp.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
That's so awesome, dude.
So I know I 100% agree. You should not do that.
Yeah.
It is wrong.
Yep.
All that.
Don't do it.
But for those who did.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up first?
So grew up in Colorado.
Okay.
And then we moved to Arkansas, which was crazy. That was a big cultural shift.
Yeah.
But some of my best friends in life have been in Arkansas, and I love Arkansas. And that's really where I got into the street racing scene and the car scene.
Okay.
Because that's where my dad owned his first body shop. And that's where I got into Mustangs and Fox bodies. And yeah, dude, that's such a great time of my life. So that was in the 90s. And street racing was really big.
Yeah.
It was just coming big on the scene.
Yeah.
And the penalties weren't nearly as harsh as they are now.
Yeah,
and that honestly,
now.
that's why you really shouldn't street race it. The penalties are insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're doing jail time and your car's getting impounded, probably gone.
Yeah, it's just straight gone.
Which is insane.
Yep, where I grew up, straight gone now.
Yeah, it's insane. But back then, it was not like that. And we did a lot of street racing. And that's really where, like, that hooks you, dude.
Yeah, it does.
The first race you win, you're fucking hooked. You're done.
Yep.
And it is good. I mean, I still might mess around on the street a little bit, but definitely way more cautious.
Yeah. The setup for the nights, and I know this is supposed to be an EOD podcast, but like this is like I've never actually talked to you about this, and I've always wanted to, because
that's good.
I've Instagram and Facebook stalked your build, right? And I've always thought like I need to bring that up, but you know, when you're out and whatever,
sure,
there's always a million things you want to talk about, and you only get to one of them, right?
100%.
So here we are. The setup for the street racing, like, was it a night thing?
Yes.
And did you guys meet? Where'd you guys usually meet to start?
Yeah, so out in the country.
Yeah.
And well, not all the times. There's a 6-lane road in Little Rock in Arkansas where a lot of it happened, and that was kind of like the beginning of roll racing before that got big. But those were the big boys. It was definitely out of my caliber.
The like Corvettes and the
oh, dude, like crazy builds.
Yeah.
Which crazy builds back then were 500 horsepower cars.
Yeah, which like you can buy now easily.
Dude,
It's
now,
insane.
if you don't have 1,000 horsepower, like don't even fucking show up, which is insane. But yeah, it's gotten stupid. There's actually still a street racing scene here in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
That's pretty big, but a lot more stakes involved, you know, like we talked about.
Yep.
But yeah, so back then that's what it was. We'd go out in the country on a road and it wouldn't be a lot of people and just get it like through the night till maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was some of the funnest times I've ever had, you know? So that kind of imprints the whole car culture on you.
Yeah.
You know?
Did so out in the country, did the cops show up ever?
Once.
Really?
Only one
once?
time. Yeah,
Wow.
only one time we had the cops show up and of course everybody, I hate to say this, but like Fast and Furious, those stupid ass movies where the cops show up and everybody flees. I mean that's what happened.
Yeah.
Nobody got. I think well, actually there was another time that they showed up and it was before we actually really started, but they knew it was going to go down. So it's kind of like, and they actually talked to us, and so nothing happened. Yeah. But that's how it was back then. Like nowadays, you're fucked.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah, your car's getting impounded, and you're doing jail time.
Yeah,
which is stupid.
When the Fast and Furious movies came out,
I still can quote the first one.
Oh, dude.
Like, yeah, I make fun of them, but we still. The first one is amazing. Like, what are we on now? 10 or 11, 12? Something like that.
At least.
Yeah. I haven't watched them in a long time. Ever since Paul Walker died. God rest his soul.
Yeah. So, actually, I got a buddy that was I forget exactly his job title, but basically for Paul Walker was his, like one of his social media people, coordinators. Actually, that same guy. So I was a mechanic for a little while before I came in, and dude, I was so mad I took this job. But you know, as a mechanic, I had a bay. I worked at a Nissan dealership, but I had my own bay, so I took jobs after work. And he had an S4, and he wanted something like not crazy done. Terrible car to work on. I was there until like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
It was absolutely terrible.
I hate those nights.
Oh, dude. And it's all like those memes about, you know, you're one broken bolt away from a 3-day job. Like, dude,
I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to put C4 on a motor and just blow that fucker. It's so frustrating. That's pretty cool. Paul Walker, also a Fox Body, was a very big Fox Body fan. So, like, I don't know if you've ever seen his personal garage. It's insane. Yeah. But he was huge into BMWs. Like, he loved BMWs. And he also had a shit ton of, like, badass Fox Bodies, too. Yeah. Like, ultra rare ones. Dream garage kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I grew up in the Bay Area in California.
Okay.
In Livermore. And it's funny because when Fast and Furious came out, like, that's what it was like where I grew up, the street racing scene. Like we would do street races where in Livermore, the group that I wasn't like an initiator on this. I just happened to end up in the group that kind of ran the races in Livermore.
Yeah.
And then we would do that until the cops came. And then once it would break up, then we would go to either Milpitas or South San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. Like San Jose was the big, like you said, roll races. We would do I know I'm an old guy now because now I think about what we did back then, and we would have people on the freeway that would slow everything down, right?
Yep.
And then they would go right, and now I'm like, I hate those people so much, like you know, like I'm so old now.
That's cool, dude, because you were part of that culture like a long time ago. That's pretty cool.
It would. I started right before I came in. I started getting out of it because I got into motorcycles too, and I got in a lot of trouble on that as well.
Yep.
But they started like on the motorcycle side, they started landing helicopters on the freeway to like stop, and then you'd get. I had friends that get during chases that stopped, and they got there's lots of guns pointed at them.
Yeah, I bet.
And then, on the
Well, a lot of places, even now, I think cops aren't allowed to chase a motorcycle because the percentage of
Yep.
it ends in fatality.
Yep.
So they're told so motorcycles are assholes.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know they're kind of like can't be unless I get caught.
Yep.
Like, I'm good.
Yeah, and on the car side, I got in chases a lot less on there, but I was such a different person.
Oh yeah, me too.
You're
super young.
I straight up had rules, like, because there's like rolling hills where I grew up,
Yep.
and I was like, all right, I had to have 2 rolling hills between. I had to be on the freeway. I wouldn't run unless I was on the freeway.
Yep.
I wouldn't run if there was too much traffic. Like
Oh yeah, I did. I may have outran a cop in my dad's Camaro when I was before the Navy. Yeah, but that was a different time.
It was. It 100% was. It kind of like how EOD has shifted too. Like everything has its time. One, what's funny is I think about that, and I think about how kids growing up now, when they're our age, are going to be like, "Man, it was so much better in my time."
Yeah,
because like I'm saying that, and I know that when I came into EOD, it was so much better in my time.
All the old guys are like, it's changed, it's not the same, blah blah blah. They all say that, and now we're saying it too. And there's definitely some validity in that.
Yeah,
I tell you, one dude though, I went to his retirement. And I haven't really been name dropping too much, but I will because this guy's a douchebag. Roger Perkins.
Yeah.
And a lot of dudes that will resonate. But I went to his retirement, and he was just complaining about how EOD's changed, the Navy's changed, and like basically giving the big finger. I mean, he even called, I think his wife and daughter or someone was there, and he was like, "My bitches right here." And we were forced to go to that retirement because nobody would have shown up.
Yeah.
But he went on his whole retirement speech was about how shit's changed and it's not as good as it used to be and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and this was for me, the golden era of EOD. Like we were deploying and actually doing work. And then come to find out, Roger was kind of a war dodger too.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even want to go to war. But it is funny how that, and I've been to so many different teams. I've been on 7 different teams, even though 5 deployments, the EOD bingo that we do.
Yep.
And I remember my first ones. Yeah. The team chiefs or even the master chiefs of the mobile unit had that, some of them had that attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important. Because I think we can all fall into that for a little while, like fall into man, I wish it was whatever, back then. But
I say that shit now.
I'll name drop this one. Ted Pickett's the reason why I started this, and it's because he challenged me, straight up like Ted is. It took about 45 minutes to get to the point, but eventually he got there. He likes to talk. I love Ted.
I love Ted.
But he was like, of the people that you're talking about, and I won't say what I was talking about, but of the people that you were talking about, who of them is actually trying to make a positive change? Is trying to make a positive difference? And like, I started thinking about that, and then I was like, oh shoot, what am I doing? And like, as we fall into that, I think it's important to pull back and be like, okay, well, I may not be able to change like the policy or the direction that I think is good or bad about EOD, but what can I do? Can I do something with my team? Can I do something with my mobile unit? Can I do something with my group? Like whatever level we think we can do, like at least put some effort towards that.
Yeah.
But
no, that's good. No, Ted is awesome. Yeah. He's awesome, dude. I gave him shit because he didn't invite me to his retirement.
Oh yeah.
But it's literally like, now that I've done retirement, I get it. You can't possibly reach out to every single dude you've ever hung out with or been with. You know what I mean? That's impossible.
Yeah.
So, but he came to my retirement.
Yeah, he did. He did.
No, he's great. He's great, dude. We've had some good conversations for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we covered a lot, man.
Yeah.
And before I ask the kind of last question that I like to ask, one, I want to I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming and sitting down and
I
talking
appreciate
about
you
your
having
stuff,
me,
man.
brother.
And it's good because known each other since 2-2 and talked, but Man, one of the things I like about doing this is like you get to know somebody like even more than you did before, and like, man, I appreciate it.
No, it's cool, and I think if Ted got you into doing this, like, you know, he's right, and like maybe this is your kind of one of your therapeutic outreaches that helps. That this actually reaches like a lot of dudes, so that's pretty cool. No, I appreciate it, like big time, for letting me come on.
Yeah, man.
Talk about how we used to be cool.
Exactly, right? So one of the last things that I like to ask too is, you know, is there anything that you want to share with anybody listening? Anything that you want to like make sure you get out, or just any last, you know?
Oh damn,
anything,
dude,
man.
that's fucking. Oh, that's a good question. You should have prepped me with that. So
I know.
had
I'm
time
sorry.
to prepare.
In fairness to everybody listening, I don't prep anybody with any questions because I don't know any of the questions that I'm going to ask.
It just flows.
Yeah,
it
does.
Happens. Yeah. Is there anything I'd like to leave? Well, I had a lot of good things in my speech for my retirement, you know, on leadership and like what you need to do as far as what worked for me and what I've looked up to in that aspect. But I think leaving with, damn it, Jerron, like, what do I say? Let's see.
And
is there anything I want to leave the community with?
It doesn't have to be just one thing.
Yeah,
as much time as you want.
Yeah, there's tons of things, right? I kind of wish I had my notes for my retirement, which I wrote that speech on a plane. But like the juices were flowing and it just came out really good. I think it's if I could leave anything, it's perspective. So like you have guys that get to where they're going, and because right now it's kind of a trying time. The guys that we get in that are really good, really motivated to do the job, and then you don't get to do the job. So like they get out, you know, or they maybe get to a really high level. They maybe go down the road to Damn Neck and they get there and it's not, the grass is not always greener, right? Or you're not doing the work that you thought you'd be doing. And I think you need to have perspective. And what I mean by that is you get there and you start bitching and moaning that the job sucks or it's not what you thought it was going to be. But who else in the world gets to do what you get to do? Who else in the world gets to train with the people you get to train with? Who gets to be around that type of individual? Or nobody. You think about percentages, like there's that less than 1% that gets to get the training we get, that gets to be involved in the leadership and the mentorship from some of the most amazing humans I've ever worked with in my life. Nobody gets to do that. So instead of being negative and being poopy faced about where you're at, maybe just have that perspective. Take that step back and be like, you know what? Like nobody else in the world gets to do this and I get to do this. Yeah, I'm not going to war. I'm not doing this, but the training I'm getting is second to none. The individuals that you're around are second to none. And maybe you don't realize that until after you're gone or you left it. Right. So that's what I could say is like, have a good perspective, to change that attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I've seen a lot of dudes over down the street at Damn Neck. They get there and they're like, they have that attitude.
Yeah.
They're like, this place sucks. It's just as bad as everything else. And they're negative. And I'm like, dude, take a step back, get that perspective of where you're at and what you get to do.
Yeah.
And the freedom of movement that we have in EOD and special operations is insane. You know, coming from the fleet or regular military, what we get to do is insane.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you discover that maybe the military is not for you and you do your 4 years and you get out, that's fine. And then those guys that are like really good, highly motivated, like Seth I was talking about earlier, you know, they get out because there's better things for them. Also, I had a new guy, Davis, who was on my team. Now he's going through med school and he's gonna become a doctor.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Cody Daniels too. That is going through med school. He's going to be a doctor. Like those guys, maybe this was a stepping point for them. So I get that. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Neither one of those dudes bitched or moaned or complained about where they were at when they were out there. So I think that's perspective. Like get that perspective, man.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know a bunch of people are going to get stuff out of what you put, and that's the point of this. So I really appreciate it.
And draw penises on everything you can get your hands on.
Facts. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share.